Ready? Like to call the October 22nd, 2022 meeting to order at 3:51 PM. Machines are open for roll call. Let the record show the 9 members present.
Item 2, executive session, there are none.
Can,
Any withdrawals or deferrals?
if anybody has any withdrawals or referral, can you cue in Dr. Gui?
Defer item 7B, item 9A3, item 9C, item 9E, and item 9N.
N?
N.
N.
N?
N as in Nancy?
That's E and N.
And Mr. Roussel?
Yes, I will defer items 9O and 11F and H. No, I'm going to keep H on, excuse me, I'd like to discuss that.
Anyone else? Ms. Newberry?
G2?
Deferred?
I'm sorry, withdrawn.
And I'd like to withdraw 11-1, B1.
I'd like to defer 11A1, please. I mean, withdraw.
11A1, withdraw. Anyone else? So we have withdrawals 9-2, 11B1, 11A1. Deferrals 7B, 9A3, 9C, 9E, 9N, 9O, 11F. Yes, can we go to 11-3?
Item 11, new business, A3, a resolution authorizing, directing the parish president or his designee to do all things necessary and proper to assist the Plaquemines Parish Fair and Orange Festival and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Councilmember Cognovich.
I'll offer as for second. Second by Mr. Alborough. Any questions? This is 11, due to Orange Festival permit.
Suspension first, we're seeking a suspension.
For this?
It's a,
Yes.
Oh, I thought it was,
I'm sorry, it's under suspension. You have got to vote on the suspension first.
I thought it was offered. but-
No, we
Well-
missed it.
All right. Okay, any questions on the suspension?
This is on 11A2?
Yeah, 11-3.
11A3.
For a permit for the Orange Festival. Any questions? Machines are open on the suspension only.
This is just to suspend the rules.
Ms. LaHaye,
3, last one, the last one.
it passes 9-0. Can you read that?
Now offered, resolution authorizing, directing the parish president or his designee to do all things necessary and proper to assist the Plaquemines Parish Fair and Orange Festival and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Councilmember Cognovich.
I'll offer as for second. Second by Mr. Alborough. Any questions? And we voting on the permit. Machines open. Passes 9-0.
Item 11A2, a suspension for a resolution urging the State Board of Election Supervisors to conduct a hearing in accordance with LRS 1853 and to provide for related matters. This is on the suspension.
Do I have an offer? Offer by Ms. LaHaye, is there a second? Second by Mr. Alborough. Any questions on the suspension? Machines are open. It's on the suspension to get it to the agenda. And it passes 9-0. Can you read it again?
Now, a resolution urging the State Board of Election Supervisors to conduct a hearing in accordance with LRS 1853 and to provide for related matters. Councilmember LaHaye.
Ms. LaHaye offers there a second. Second by Mr. Alborough. Any questions from the audience?
First,
We have to,
public comment will come.
you want it to come now, or?
It's to y'all's discretion whether you want me to issue the report now or after public comment.
I think it'd be appropriate to
Have the report, then take it. Can you wait a second, Mr.?
Yes.
Skogovich members, I was requested to, actually, the first time a couple of months ago, to look into the process with regard to the registrar of voters. As you're all aware, the council selects the registrar, but by law, the council does not have the authority to remove the registrar. Louisiana Revised Statute 1853 provides the mechanism for the removal of the registrar by the State Board of Election Supervisors. They can do it on their own initiative, or they can do it upon a resolution adopted by a 2/3 vote of the parish governing authority. And I've provided a report outlining the statute on this. There are 4 criteria that can be used. First is willful misconduct relating to the official duty. Second is willful and persistent failure to perform the duty. Third is persistent public conduct prejudicial to the administration of the laws relative to the registration of voters that brings the office in disrepute. And the fourth is conviction of a felony. So I was asked to look into whether there were any facts that represented any of those items. You should have 2 reports, one from September 30th and then a follow-up on October 24th. So taking again, I looked at the provisions in the statute that would provide for potential removal. One of the things I did in both reports, it set forth Louisiana Revised Statute 1858, because I think it's important to understand what the statutory duty is of the registrar before you can make the determination on those other items. I draw particular attention to 58A, the last sentence. The registrar shall participate in the state voter registration computer system established pursuant to RS 1831 and shall provide all necessary assistance to the Secretary of State to effectuate the inclusion of his parish in that system. Registrar under B1 is responsible for conducting absentee mail voting, and under B2 it states the registrar shall assign voters in the state voter registration computer system according to each voting district in the parish from which an election is to be conducted. Also D1, the registrar shall notify the Secretary of State or his designee by telephone, electronic mail, or facsimile within 24 hours following the discovery of any cyber incident that impacts the office of the registrar, including but not limited to a computer system maintained by the Secretary of State. And then it defines cyber incident means any event which may jeopardize the confidentiality, integrity, or availability of digital information or information systems. So I undertook the items in the statute in the order that they're in the statute. The first would be willful misconduct related to the official duty. I obtained a list of a set of text messages by the registrar to her then deputy registrar, Michelle Wilcox, in which the registrar made several requests that Ms. Wilcox provide her login information to the secretary, to the registrar. I learned through the Secretary of State's office that each individual with a registrar is given a unique login information for both the Aaron system and their email. And Ms. Wilcox refused to provide the login information. She then contacted the HR department, Secretary of State's office. They submitted a response. The text messages are in Exhibit A that I attached to the report. The Secretary of State's response is in Exhibit B, in which they state, inform Ms. Michelle, you should not share your password with anyone. Then there was reference to the Secretary of State's security training. The Secretary of State issued what they call Policy 25. You have a copy of Policy 25 in your packet, and it is the cybersecurity policy and protocols of the Secretary of State's office. Again, in speaking with the First Assistant Secretary of State, I confirmed the email that those logins are supposed to be kept absolutely confidential because they keep track of who logs in when. It's part of their security system. And if someone gives their login information to someone else, it looks like someone else is logging in instead of the person who may be actually logging in. And attached to Exhibit C was Registrar Brannon's acknowledgement of the understanding of Policy 25. I then looked at, I have an email from the Secretary of State's office, again, to Ms. Wilcox. It's Exhibit D, and rather an email from Ms. Wilcox to the Secretary of State's office where she relates what happened after the Secretary of State had informed Ms. Wilcox not to release her login information. That email references that at that time the registrar requested that Ms. Wilcox resign. Ms. Wilcox declined at that time. The next item that under willful misconduct that I looked at was I have a text message stream from September 15th of 2022 between Registrar Brannon and Ms. Wilcox, in which the registrar asked Ms. Wilcox, did she talk to Jeffrey Whale? Ms. Wilcox responded, yes. Registrar responded, why didn't you tell me? Clearly, I was terribly wrong thinking we were all on the same team. I then came to find out Mr. Jeffrey Whale is actually an assistant attorney general who was conducting an investigation of the Attorney General's office with regard to the jurisdiction issue. That was the gentleman who went down and qualified, but had apparently been placed in the wrong precinct. So he qualified to run in District 8 when his house is in District 7. And that information was shared with Mr. Whale. I'm not aware of any further investigation of that issue by the Secretary of State's office other than that. The next exhibit you have is Exhibit F. It's a newspaper article from the Gazette from October 4th. And in it, the registrar indicates that, quote, when I was looking over everything, I found that my chief deputy had made hundreds of errors. And this was, and that's, she gave the reason to terminate. Let me step back a second. September 15, 2022 is also the date the registrar terminated her deputy registrar, Michelle Wilcox. In the newspaper article on October 4th, she said she terminated her on September 5th because she had discovered that she had hundreds of errors. In additional information I got from the Secretary of State's office, and it's Exhibit G in your packet. It is the login to the Aaron system, which is the computer voting system, and it is the login associated with Registrar Brannon. If you will review the last page of it, and this was obtained through September 15th. Last time that Registrar Brannon logged into the Aaron system was on May 2nd. 2022. She had only logged in 3 other times in 2022, and they were all in the month of February. The last, and that section was 2024. I also got I reached out to the Secretary of State's office when I got this document to make sure it was correct, And their response was, yes, this is her Aaron login record. It does not include her email login, which she can access without logging into Aaron. For security reasons, we do not permit ROVs to log in remotely to Aaron. So, and again, she terminated Ms. Wilcox that next day, or actually that same day. However, I also, in the text messages that were provided by Ms. Wilcox, we have text messages from August 8th of 2022 in which the registrar writes, "Great job, Michelle. I feel so much better about this. You're doing an outstanding job. I'm really proud of you." August 9th, Michelle is rocking it and representing us well. Thank you, Michelle. You did all the heavy lifting on this one. And based upon those emails and based upon the fact that there wasn't any apparent login to the Aaron system timely to the date of termination, it seems like the termination, it appears to have been related to either the discussion with the Secretary of State's, with the Attorney General's office, or with the refusal to provide the login information. One of the jobs of the registrar is to protect the system, is to participate in that cybersecurity system. I have confirmed from the registrar, from the Secretary of State's office, that in fact, asking an employee to give you their confidential login is a violation of policy 25. And frankly, it's just more than a coincidence that she was fired on the exact same day that she spoke to an assistant attorney general who was conducting an investigation. Honestly, I don't think that any employee of the registrar's office would have been in maintaining their policy had they not spoken with him. So if she was terminated for refusing to give up her login and for participating and for cooperating with the Attorney General in investigation, then I think that would have been misconduct. But that's a determination that ultimately we have to be decided by the State Board of Election Supervisors. The next item is that can be a basis for removal is willful and persistent failure to perform the duty. As noted in both reports, the registrar has one of the registrar's primary duties is to assign voters to the voter registration system. Secretary of State records, and also they record when people log in and do that. And just like the exhibit I've already referenced, there's very little record of her logging in to that voter registration system. Now, clearly she could have staff do that, but I will tell you, when I requested information from the Secretary of State's office, and I'll refer you to Exhibit I, they informed me that there had been training offered to all of the registrars in the state on redistricting, because I think everybody recognizes that the couple of months after a redistricting is a very difficult time to be a registrar because you're assigning a lot of voters. According to Sherry Hatsky, Commissioner of Elections, and you can see it in Exhibit I, she reviewed and confirmed that Ms. Brannon did not attend any of our redistricting courses. She also did not attend any of the trainings offered this past year on any other elections-related tasks. They also, in response, when they sent this email, also sent what is Secretary of State's policy number 46. You can see it is attached as Exhibit J. What is interesting about that is that it indicates that registrars, at least the policy adopted back in 2013 and applicable today, registrars actually don't earn leave like an ordinary employee. Under the policy, a registrar is to be considered in duty status at all times, and therefore they're not required to report absences from their office or take leave or report their hours worked. However, the policy goes on to specifically state each registrar of voters will be solely responsible for the performance of the mandated duties of his or her office. Variances in time and attendance shall not affect the provision of duties and services mandated for each registrar of voters by the Louisiana Constitution and Title 18 of the Louisiana Revised Statutes. Seems, and that actually goes along with the statutory obligation that we discussed, that I referenced earlier. A review of a number of text messages between Registrar Brannon and her staff indicated that for a significant number of days, She was, in her words, working from home, which, again, registrar doesn't have to work 8 to 5. They're just responsible. They are just solely responsible for making sure the actual work gets done. And I did confirm with the Secretary of State's office, and it's in the exhibit, that a registrar cannot log into the ARIN system remotely. The system is hardwired. They have to log in from a verified computer in the registrar's office. So you can work from home, but you can't do that part of your job from home as far as logging into the ARIN system. Now, her staff did undertake the duty of essentially assigning voters to the various districts. There's a text message from July 11th, in which the registrar to her staff states, just saw the email from the state, y'all pulled off redistricting. Again, there's no record of the registrar ever logging into the ARIN system between when y'all adopted the plan and when the school board adopted the plan. And y'all adopted first, and they adopted, and when the redistricting was supposed to be submitted. Now, there was a deadline of July 13th, but the Secretary of State's office, as related, you can actually see, if you turn to Exhibit O in your packet, it is a letter from the Secretary of State's office, which does indicate that they were, it reaffirms it is your duty as the registrar to interpret and interpret the reapportionment plan and make these decisions. The Office of the Secretary of State is not authorized by law to make any redistricting decisions for any parish. We do, however, suggest that you resolve all pending entries immediately. These decisions are necessary to place voters in the correct districts and should have already been made by your office. Without a decision, an appropriate action will be not be possible for you to determine which absentee mail ballots to send to which voter, which ballot to provide the voter at early voting. And that's a letter dated October 5th. And that was an effort that is actually referenced in a newspaper article, the Exhibit M, in which the registrar does relate it's the prior newspaper article where the registrar does relate, the October 4th article where the registrar does relate that there was a button that seemed new to her that she didn't believe had ever been used in the ARIN system. I confirmed with the Secretary of State's office, it was always on the ARIN system. That system has to do with when you make a change, there's a last step that has to be done to make that change official in the electronic voter registration database. And this was the Secretary of State's office urging the registrar to move forward with that. It does also note in the letter, we note that you have not attended most, if any, of the related trainings offered in 2022. Enclosed, please find the training materials from the training sessions you did not attend. These materials will be of assistance to you in understanding the redistricting process. Understand this letter was October 5th. All right. So, again, in evaluating that second criterion, did the registrar fail to perform their duty? Given that the primary duty is to have that done. And in fact, in two different newspaper articles, the registrar indicates that, at least from her view, the records, the assignment of voters to the various districts was not done properly. There were only 3 that I have documentation of. There was a circumstance on a boundary between districts 3 and 4, in which some voters were assigned to the wrong district after Michelle Wilcox, or Mr. Arbor first communicated that to me. I communicated to Ms. Wilcox. Once Ms. Wilcox took another look at the map, she got the voters put in the correct district. The only other 2 that I have documentation are, again, I mentioned with Mr. Jurisic, that's a gentleman who resides on LA 23 in that portion that is in one of the new precincts you created, which was Precinct 82A, which is part of District 7. And he apparently didn't realize it because he had not been placed in Precinct 82A. He had been left in Precinct 82, which is in District 8. And the third one is the exact same question. Mr. Roussel brought an issue where a husband and wife in their own home were assigned to different precincts. But I think they subsequently got that corrected as well. And that one was actually acknowledged in the newspaper articles as well about the husband and wife being assigned to different precincts. So, and I do understand that the registrar did terminate the deputy registrar and cited in the newspaper that was the reason. Again, I go back to, I'm looking at Secretary of State's policy, which aligns with the state law that says that the buck stops with the registrar, and that the registrar is solely responsible for making sure that duty gets carried out. The third item is persistent public conduct prejudicial to the administration of the laws relative to the registration of voters that brings the office into disrepute. On multiple occasions in the newspaper articles, Registrar Brennan has made statements that the plans were illegally altered, that the redistricting plan, that there was wrongdoing in the redistricting process, and that changes were illegally made to the plan after its implementation. And she went so far as to actually call for the postponement of the election. Now, I can tell you, the registrar, the Secretary of State's office, has looked at each of the allegations. They've determined that there was no wrongdoing. I understand some people were not pleased with the plan itself, but that ultimately was a decision this council made and the school board made. Interestingly, the school board only had one negative vote against the plan, and they adopted the exact same plan. The Secretary of State's office responded in one of the newspaper articles that there was no criminal act in this situation, and canceling an election over this is, in their words, ridiculous. Again, and finally, as referenced, there was an allegation by the registrar to the Secretary of State's office that somehow the nomenclature of the precincts were going to cause votes to be misaligned. The Secretary of State's office, in a series of emails, stated it is not possible for votes to be miscounted into the wrong district the way you are suggesting. Another comment was by Sherry Hadsky, the Commissioner of Elections, I am not sure, but I think she's saying the same thing we've been explaining to her is not a problem. And then she was also informed by the Secretary of State's office, once again, the precincts in Erin match what was passed by your council. And so the question is would allegations that don't have a factual basis upon plans being changed, and Mr. Cognovich has looked at it. If you look at the maps that were attached to Ordinance 2222, the precincts, the districts look exactly the same as they do on the maps that the school board is using, that the clerk court has on their website. So again, ultimately, it is the decision of the Secretary of State's office on what to do this. The only question would be is whether the council wishes to adopt a resolution urging the Secretary of State's office to look at this information and, one, determine if there is sufficient evidence to establish the conduct, and two, whether or not the conduct meets the statutory requirement for removal. Again, y'all don't make the decision on removal. That's made by the State Board of Election Supervisors, and under the statute, they are required to afford the registrar a hearing, which the registrar is allowed to have notice of. That hearing is to be conducted under the Administrative Procedures Act, which is a state law provision. And then if the registrar is displeased with the State Board of Election Supervisors, the statute goes on to say that the registrar can appeal the decision of the State Board of Election Supervisors to a district court, and actually would get what's called a trial de novo, which is a whole new hearing. So it wouldn't be like a court of appeal where they're just going to take word for it. So, and ultimately, like I said, the State Board of Election Supervisor is the only one that has the authority. The way it gets in front of him would be if y'all adopt a resolution. Now, this is by statute. This resolution requires a 2/3 vote, which is 6 of the 9 of you. It's a 2/3 of the entire council, not just 2/3 of those present voting. I'll be happy to provide any other clarity or explain any of the exhibits if any of you have any questions.
Thank you. Reverend?
You know, I got up here to comment this council. The fact that they changed the wording of the resolution urging. But it's obvious that we just heard you just had a trial. You just had a trial presented here. And it's like putting Dracula over a blood bank for Mr. Garrett to lead this process. He's a part of the problem. And yet, he's saying that the Secretary, but he just had a public trial. And I'm not here to defend Ms. Brandon. This could be the clerk of court. This could be the director of civil service. This governing body, people asking me, what's really going on? The fact that Mr. Garrett has a conflict of interest involved in this because of his role with the redistricting. Somebody wrote an article in the Gazette talking about Mayberry. But this is like a Halloween night, Twilight Zone or something, what we're doing here. You know, I don't understand. The minute he had a problem, seemed like the parish attorney should have came in involved in. So people say, you know, here you got an election taking place. You got a parish president running with a legal department, not doing anything. Then you got one of the council members running for parish president. He's got a conflict of interest in this. Who is really behind this? What is really going on here? Everybody is asking me that question. What is really going on? There's too many conflict of interest. And for Mr. Gary to be one of the people involved in it, and for him to hear, and he actually did a trial here. He actually presented a presentation. If you saying the Secretary of State gonna do the investigation, it should come in. But he's saying, here, this is what we want you to do. We have did our investigation. He has done the investigation. He is clearly that he has a conflict in this. I told Mr. Garrett at the very beginning, at the hearing here on the redistricting, I didn't think he should have been involved in the redistricting because of his relationship with the council, and I don't know what is the relationship with the parish government. I say he started off with a conflict of interest, and it's even more so because I was so happy. I said, oh, I'm glad, because that's all I was trying to tell you last week, Ms. Lade, is saying that we're urging the thing, but not the saying we're doing it. Something about this just don't think. There's too many conflict of interest, and people is questioning what is going on, you know, with the parish president position, and both, you got two people running for parish president, the parish president and Mr. Roussel, both of them is involved in this issue. What is this really about? Is this really about Ms. Britton? Is it really about that? I had an interest in it because I know voter suppression take place. So I wanted to make sure nothing was happening to hold this election up. And why are we doing this right now? What is the urgency that we couldn't wait till after the election to do this? Something about this thing to the highest. Something about the too many conflicts of interest involved in that. And Mr. Garrett just made it very clear, you know, his position on it. He's leading the investigation. You put Dracula over a blood bank. That's sad. Pathetic.
Good evening. It seems Mr. Garrett is more concerned about my HR issues than the big issues that are going on right now with the confusion with the precincts and voting. So, okay, we're here for a second time. Your resolutions have gone from firing to discipline to suspension, and today, none of the above. You just want me removed and become the state's problem. Face it, you have absolutely no idea what to do with me. Apparently, the charges now fall under election code. I don't know. This is what we go by. This is our Bible in my office, the election code, Title 18, which some people take liberties with, use just what they want. He read most of 1853. What he didn't add is that after all those things about you can be removed for willful misconduct, for willful and persistent failure to perform your duty, blah, blah, blah. And the last one is, or conviction of a felony. So I think hurting my former chief deputy's feelings or asking her to give me her password so that I can get into the system, get an employee to get into the system, which happened a month before I let her go, that seems to be a big deal. This isn't about that. And since I've not been privy to any evidence or charges against me until now, what I've heard are lies. and I'm not going to waste my time or the public's time lowering myself to defend my actions, because I have done nothing wrong. I am guilty of following the election code, and based on the directives and advice given to my office and to you by Mr. Garrett, it appears Mr. Garrett is either unaware of Title 18 or he just uses it as a suggestion. Let's start at the beginning and keep this about the redistricting plan that you adopted. Excuse me. Part of what my illness is long COVID, and I have trouble talking sometimes. When a redistricting plan is adopted and executed, the citizens have to live with it for 10 years. I believe this council has trusted Mr. Garrett to follow the regulations. And is it possible your trust has been misplaced? Are all of you 100% clear on what you adopted? When you voted for that, did you know that District 8 went from Empire to Engineers Road? Were you aware that there are 6 new precincts? And Mr. Garrett always goes back to the original ordinance, 2222. It was adopted on February 24th. Were you aware you passed 3 more ordinances with regard to redistricting? The last one was on July 14th, the day after my deadline for making changes in Aaron. I don't do all the data entry in Aaron. I have my employees pull reports. Most interestingly is that ordinance 2287 that you adopted on July 14th, the day after my deadline, was one about merging precincts. And I'm going to talk about that a little more in a minute. But the other thing is, upon adoption of the plan, the state is supposed to receive the CSV files or shape files. Those are maps, or it's a very detailed spreadsheet that makes putting all of this important data into the system. We never got.
You have a minute left.
This is about my job. I would like,
You have a minute left.
all right. There were changes made, and wow, really? Really?
Going by the rules.
I
Everybody
know.
have 5 minutes.
Well, gosh, if we went by the rules, then LARS 181945 clearly states, no redistricting plan shall be implemented unless the information required, the CSV file and shape files, has been received by the Secretary of State prior to 4:30 p.m. 4 weeks before the date of qualifying. The CSV files were never received. When I did receive a spreadsheet, I wrote him back and said, look, I got this example from Robert Spears of how it should look.
Time's
And
up.
he said that his software won't do that.
Your time's up.
The map and shape files were not given
I'm
into
sorry,
my
your time's
office
up.
until August 11th.
Your time's up, Miss Brennan.
Oh, but it's not.
Yes.
Even with this, you
Miss
still
Brennan, your
trusted.
time's up.
And after
Can I
all,
ask you to
due
go
my
sit
health
down, Miss Brennan?
limitations, I arranged for my staff to have help of the
Miss
chief
Brennan.
deputy from a neighboring parish. This is the individual who had done
Can you
all
cut
of
the mic
training
off? Can you cut
for
the mic off?
all of the ROVs in the state.
Miss
What-
Brennan, your time's up. You need to sit down. I'll have to get the deputy to escort you. He's not gonna lock you up, he's gonna escort you away from the podium.
I have asked both the council and the state to rename these precincts that were renamed. I'd like any of you to tell me, what district is 51A in? Did you know it's in District 8? Did you know you also took out voters from District 8 and moved them to 7, even though the state said you couldn't? Those 6 new precincts, you're gonna escort me out? All right. I guess I'm the only one that has to do that, right? Thank you.
Ms. Newberry?
Sharon, I know you tried to express your opinion. I think the bottom line is Danny was very long-winded, I have to agree. And you're also repetitive to the board. These maps are very confusing to a lot of these council members along with the public, and I understand that. I don't know the legalities of the map, if Danny did anything wrong or did he do anything. I think that's the reason why we're going to pass this, if it gets passed today, to investigate the situation, and that's what we're voting on today. So hopefully those concerns that you have about the maps will be addressed to you by the state to let you know if any wrongdoing was presented or not.
You finished, Ms. Newberry?
Kim, Kim, can you hand those out? Thank you.
Thank you. State your name and address for the record. Can you? She'll turn the mic on in a second. All right.
Hello? Hello, is that working? Hello?
You on?
All right, my name is Kerry Lincoln, from Jesuit Den. I'm Sharon's husband. Pretty sure y'all are well aware of it. I'm gonna cut this a little bit short because obviously I don't want to be escorted out. That seems to be the way things work. A lot of the beginning of my original speech was to find out how many of you are going to recuse yourself from the vote. Because numerous of people here have got people moved into their district after the time limit when nothing's supposed to be moved, no one's supposed to be moved. And each one of y'all, well, not each one of you, but numerous people up there have gotten these benefits, and they should recuse themselves. Some of them even got a walk-on where they didn't have to even bother with running against someone because of the situations that took place. Now, a lot of the problems that I see is Mr. Garrett, he is a special counsel to the council. He's a map maker. He does his investigation work. I heard him basically swearing that everything was proven to be okay and all right, and that she made false claims. He's sitting here telling you about his own work. He's defending his own work. There's some certain things that took place, which I was lucky enough to see some of her emails, which is paperwork she just give you, shows the email in his own words from 4/22, where he admits that his equipment is not, how does it say? I do not have that functionality in the software. And he's talking about the redistricting plan in the CSV format that is required by the state. And that was supposed to be turned in. He never turned that in. Mr. Garrett also in 7/2022 made the quote that the SOS declined them so they remain not merged due to senatorial restrictions. Now notice this is well after the time when anything could be changed. And he's in regard to 8.1A, 8.2A, merging with 7.1 and 7.2. So he's not following his own protocol. And there's a lot more. This could go on and on. But like I said, I really was not planning on getting into that, and I'm sure Sharon was. Let's see. Mr. Garrett was basically let off of his chain to publicly attack Ms. Brannon. He went after with false claims, which we never heard anything of until just a minute ago, where I could defend a lot of this stuff because I was there when it took place, when Miss Wilcox left the office. She had taken the sign-in code or the email from a woman who worked there for 9 years because she didn't like her. She had an attitude with her. She gave it to temporary help. Temporary help run out of hours, so she wasn't there. Sharon wasn't there. She, Miss Wilcox, took a trip somewhere, and she called her and says, look, give her your information for one day so she can check email. And then you can go in there and change your password the next day. That's what that was all about. That wasn't as much of an argument or a reason to fire her. She did not fire her for that reason. The termination come down when the Attorney General asked her if she could speak to Miss Wilcox, if they could speak with Miss Wilcox. Sharon said, sure. She asked Miss Wilcox what it was about. What did they want to talk to you about anyway? You know, it's about the office. She said, well, that's client attorney privilege. I think we heard that one a few times, because that's how come we never got any information on what the claims were here.
1 minute left.
Yeah, I bet. All right. You got an unbelievable amount of conflict of interest going on here with this man. Like I said, he's already sworn to his own stuff. He's making these claims of attorney-client privileges, hiding behind that, and has y'all hiding behind it. He's supposed to be an attorney protecting y'all. Because this thing is going on the way it is, y'all are looking at some major lawsuits, lots of them. Y'all are concerned about it. This man's putting you there. Sharon's trying to stop it before it gets to that point. She's trying to show you where all the issues are. Y'all haven't allowed her to talk, haven't allowed her to show you anything. That piece of paper right there shows a lot of the emails. This man's only got one side of emails. He's only got one side of it from a disgruntled employee that was terminated. Now, a lot of y'all, some of y'all have received benefits from this issue. You might want to think about who y'all are, because in a little while, y'all going to push a button up here.
Time's up.
Everybody who voted for you and everybody who will ever vote for you is going to realize what y'all are doing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Mr. Blink?
The gentleman wants to speak.
State your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening. My name is Michael Zummer. My address is 2337 Magazine Street in New Orleans. The reason I'm here tonight is because I'm the president of Accountability FBI, which is a nonprofit that I incorporated and that I run. The reason I'm speaking now is because the nonprofit was brought up at the last council meeting as a potential conflict of interest, and I wanted to set the record straight. First of all, I used to be an FBI agent. I'm no longer an FBI agent because I reported prosecutorial misconduct favoring a sexual predator district attorney to a federal judge. And the FBI determined that I couldn't be trusted with national security material. By the way, I'm also a Marine and I served in Iraq, so I'm a bit disappointed that they thought I couldn't be trusted with national security material. I've been fighting the FBI for the last 5 years in court to try to set precedent to protect other FBI whistleblowers. This year, I decided to start my own nonprofit. I asked Mr. Roussel and Mrs. Wilcox to serve on my board, along with other people who have no ties to Plaquemines Parish, to my knowledge. The reason I asked them was because of my individual relationships with them, and because I know that they would be willing to serve voluntarily to help make the FBI better, to help make the country better. And they have supported me throughout my fight against the FBI. Also, I asked them to serve on the board because I know that they would tell me when I am wrong. They are the sort of people who will not let me get away with anything, and I need people on the board who can be trusted to serve the public interest. This nonprofit has absolutely nothing to do with redistricting or election issues in Plaquemines Parish, or for that matter, other issues in Plaquemines Parish politics. And so I'm the one who chose the board members or asked them to serve on the board, and there was no ulterior motive or anything associated with the Registrar Voters Office. Furthermore, I asked Ms. Wilcox to serve as the treasurer because I knew she would do the job and that she wouldn't steal a penny. That is what I wanted to say. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. I would ask that if anybody has allegations against a nonprofit that I've started to try to make the FBI better and more accountable, that they would direct those questions to me instead of making allegations at a council meeting in a parish where I don't live or on Facebook.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Name and address for the record, please.
Burgard Turner, 161 East Bellevue, Port Sulphur. I didn't catch the beginning of the presentation that Mr. Garrett made. Just took a few notes while he was speaking. And one thing that caught my attention is when he used the word if and it appears that the termination was due to the refusal to share her password. Do we know that? Was that the reason? Or are we just throwing something out there? Do we know that that was the reason that she terminated her? Has she been asked that? Or were there other things going on? I'm using his term. When he says appears, it means he doesn't know. Or he's not clear on it. Could be. After that, he said if she was terminated for refusal to share her password. Again, we're taking definitive actions on something that he's not speaking in definitive terms. If she did this, right? And then the next question is, it begs the question, was that the only thing that was done? Do we really know what transpired and why she was terminated? Or that's something that we can latch on to? That's just something that caught my attention while he was speaking. But also what he said was that the Secretary of State said there was no wrongdoing and that due to the nomenclature, it's not possible that there would be a mistake. I can't quote him directly on that, but he talked about the nomenclature and that the state is saying that it's not possible for there to be mistakes. I don't agree with him, and here's why. 82A, and let's back up. He also stated that Mr. Juricic was qualified to run in the wrong district. Think about that. Came from your attorney. He was qualified to run in the wrong district. And what I find sort of insulting is that the law that the clerk of court is using and that you're using based on your attorney, State Constitution 1974, Article 3 deals with the legislative branch. Section 4B is what's being used to cover up the wrongdoing. Article 3 deals specifically with the legislative body. When you look at it, the very first section talks about the Senate and the House of Representatives. Everything is dealing with the legislative body. You guys know, if you don't know, you ought to know that Plaquemines Parish is a home rule charter and falls under Article 6, and I know Mr. Garrett knows that. So for Mr. Garrett and his counsel and the clerk of court and the attorney general to latch on to something that doesn't even apply, that law deals with the legislative branch. Article 6 is local governments, the home rule charter. And to pass that on to the people as though this gives us cover, I believe it's gross negligence of the law. Gross negligence. It's intentional. It's not a mistake. You're taking something that you know don't apply. That's the legislative branch. Article 3 is titled legislative branch. Article 6 is titled local governments, which deals with parishes and home rule charter. So I find that to be shameful.
1 minute.
Thank you. I find that to be shameful. And the fact that the state is saying that there are no wrongdoings and no one can vote in the wrong place, well, 82A from Home Place to Edgecombe Lane, some of them are in 7-2 and some of them are in 82A. And right now, the state is showing 82A in District 8. But we don't have a problem. Mr. Roussel tried addressing that. He said, Mr. Turner, he got with the state, said, Mr. Turner, the state said, you're right, there was a mistake. The voter registrar can transfer people one at a time, but what happened, it was a batch, and she can't transfer them as a batch. The state has to do it. He said they're going to give you a free report, a free list. Correction has been made. I've got it on my computer right now. It's 82A is still in. 82A is still in District 8. Ms. Sharon just mentioned about, I believe she said 5-1. I look at my list, it's on the computer right now. Just got it this week. It's not in District 8. Directly from the state, Mr. Roussel can verify and confirm that the state said they had corrected it.
Time's up.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Any other questions? Concerns? Ms. LaHaye, you want to go with it? Machines open. Ms. Newberry, LaFrance, and Blink. It passes 6-3.
Back to agenda item 3, proclamations. There are none. Agenda item 4, status report by the parish president.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon. I do not have a report today for you guys, but the administration would request that we move to 9D, Mr. Chairman.
6-3. I just have one question from my District 9 update. The water plant, the trailer we got to take this salt water out, isn't working.
I'll defer to Mr. Epley to give you a complete update. And then
Mr. Morgan is here from Infomark. He's been dealing with this every day. He can give us an update as to what's going on.
Thank
Robert Morgan, Infomark, 126 Sewer Plant Road. Right now, Paul Water, the reverse osmosis is in service. We're waiting on the state to come back with test results. That's the only thing holding us up right now. Everything is in place. Everything is operational. We installed it. It's just not able to put the water to the public. The state holds things up until it clears their sample, until it clears their background of sampling. So that's the only holdup we have right now.
Do you know how long it's going to take them?
We're actually pushing it. I talked to the director today, Todd, and we might have to make some calls to DHH to push the samples forward. So that's the only thing we're waiting right now.
I think we need to expedite it because
I do too. I agree.
Got restaurants can't make iced tea, can't use ice. Taking a shower or brushing your teeth, you taste nothing but salt.
I agree. I spoke to DHH, and they're saying it's the MCL. They don't have a limit on it, so they're just not as it's not a health concern in their eyes. It's not a health concern. So that's the issue we're having with them. But hopefully hopefully they pass it and give us authorization to put it to the public tomorrow. Hopefully, that's what I'm waiting on.
And then any way we could get with the Corps engineers to start making them close some breaks in the levees, and because I've seen video of the new break right above the fort. There's more salt water coming in than fresh water coming down the river.
What I can tell you, Mr. Kognovich, is we have a 9 a.m. standard Wednesday meeting on Zoom with the Corps, and I'll be glad to add you to that conversation. And maybe you can ask them to come up with your solution and see what they say.
Thank you. Mr. Blink?
Yeah, sure. I have some questions that I don't know if anybody here is capable of answering it, but I mean, how does the extra salt in the water affect those with, diets that can't handle a lot of sodium? Is there anybody here that can answer that?
It does affect people that are on strict diets. That's why we put out a public health advisory 3-4 weeks ago to alert those people that do have strict diets, that are on low sodium diets, that it could be an issue for them and that they should refrain from drinking the water.
I saw there's a boiled water advisory with that, and
There's no boil water advisory.
it just seems like that would have concentrated the salt even more.
There is no boil water advisory. It was a public health advisory that was put out to notify people that had health conditions that required low sodium diets that they may need to be careful with the water.
Thank you.
Ms. Newberry?
Sir, you put out we filed for a state of emergency on this, is that correct?
Yes, we still on this
Okay.
statement. We just extended it.
So, we don't know when this is going to end, correct? So is the businesses or maybe homeowners able to put out some type of report to the, like we do for hurricanes, they apply for assistance? The business is going to be able to do that too on this particular situation that's kind of rare?
Well, we're under declaration, but the state's not under declaration. It's a little different when that happens, when the state happens, because we're all under declaration of emergency. So we're doing everything that we can do to procure everything on our side. Now, I don't know if that would include, as you say, helping aid or giving aid to our residents, but we'll do the informative information that they need. But again, we don't know how much we can, give out.
If the administration can do that, because this is a very unusual occurrence. I know the businesses are having to put out extra money, as Mr. Kognovich said, maybe to bring in ice or, so it's something that they can file with the state or the federal government on this particular. I'm sure they would like some type of help.
Well, like I said, we definitely can check into that.
Thank you.
Mr. Bartholomew?
Yeah, that's what my concern was. Ask the president if any way possible we can extend the state of emergency all the way to the federal levy, departments up there in D.C. to where give him a lot more of feasibility, instructional funding, and activity to support providing a safe drinking water for the people on the lower end of Blackman Parish at this time. Because from my understanding, the state of emergency only applied to what we can do locally at this point in time. So we need to demand more from the state and also from the federal government to take over, just like it's a hurricane. That's what we are assuming because of the possibility of devastation to the people in the area because of health reasons. That's all, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. LaFrance?
Yes. Mr. President, do you know if the Corps of Engineers finished that levee? Did they start construction that levee underneath the water?
Yes, sir. They were finished on Friday.
Okay. And presently, how far are we pushing the water from Belchase south?
Let me ask Mr. Epley or Mr.
Port Sulphur. We've got water coming from Belchase going to the Port Sulphur water plant. The booster pumps at Port Sulphur water plant are pushing it south into the Port Sulphur area to Empire.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Bartholomew?
Yeah, while we're on that part of it, what about the East Bank? The Port Lahatch mainly, right now.
We have another reverse osmosis unit procured. We've issued the PO for that one. We're working on the insurance requirements for that one. It is scheduled to be delivered to Point Lahatch on November the 9th.
But that particular operation is not working properly at this point in time down in Venice?
The one in Venice is currently in operation, is working. We're waiting on DHH to give us the go-ahead so we can push the water out to the customers. So once the one for Point Lahatch arrives on November 9th, we'll get to valving it in, tying it into the water system. Now that we've had a little bit of experience with what goes on in Boothville, it should not take near as long to get it up and operational.
So we'll have the salt salinity of it won't have a problem with the water. Salt in the drinking water won't be a problem.
We're hoping it won't, sir.
Oh, we don't know for sure then.
We do not.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Ms. LaHaye?
Yes, I would like to know what are we doing? First of all, where is the saltwater intrusion? How far up?
The toe of the wedge is at the sill that the Corps of Engineers built in the river, which is at mile marker, do you remember?
65.6, right above,
The refinery?
right below Phillips 66 plant, right there where the crossing of the West Virginia goes. It's right below the plant.
Okay. People who are on a salt-restricted diet, folks with kidney problems, heart problems, what are we doing they can't drink the water. So what alternative are we doing right now? They may not be able to, if you say, don't drink the water, well, what are you giving them in place of the water? They have to have water.
They do have water, and if they're on restricted diets, they were advised through Department of Health that they should be careful with the water that they drink out of the system. Obviously, that recommends people drink bottled water. And what are we doing? We are hooking in the reverse osmosis unit so we can take the salt out of the water. So hopefully, when DHH gives us the go-ahead in the next day or so, we can have that water that we've taken the salt out pushed out to all the residents.
Is there anything that, it's kind of like, well, it's not like reverse osmosis, but a little filter that is available where they can put in their faucet or underneath their sink, wherever they get their water from, to filter the salt out?
I don't believe there is anything that on that level that can take salt out of the
You can
water.
ask Robert Morgan, we don't know.
So the state, you can't get funds, or some people can't afford to buy the bottled water. And it would be a choice. If it's a person with a severe kidney problem or severe heart problem, then it could be death for them. It's not a maybe. I know I have had family members that, this is serious. They cannot have the salt.
I understand, and that's why we went ahead and procured the reverse osmosis unit so we could treat the water and we could solve the problem. Since the Corps of Engineers says this could be a 3 to 6 month issue that we're dealing with.
And how long will it take for the reverse osmosis to get here?
No,
You have
it's here. It's ready to go. As soon as DHH gives us the go-ahead, we can start pushing water to residents.
Okay, so
Did you hear
it's
Mr.
fairly temporary.
Mr. Morgan explained? It is in place. It is hooked up. It is ready to go. We are handcuffed by DHH. We're ready to run it, operate it. But they actually have to have another filter that they have to approve that the water runs through. So these are certain parameters that keep us from getting up. It's there. It's ready to roll. So Mr. Morgan have done a great job of trying to get them secured to get this up and running. It's frustrating on our end because we've done everything in our power to hook it up, get the electricity. We have a generator on site in case it goes out, the electricity goes out. We are ready. We are waiting for DHH to give us the go-ahead.
That's sad when you have people that could die.
Ma'am, it frustrates us too.
And you don't have a timeline at all. You have no idea.
Maybe Mr. Morgan can give me a better timeline, but he has been there every day we speak.
Need rain.
Yeah, the last time I spoke with them, the state lab doesn't open on Fridays. They close at 2 o'clock on a Thursday today. So they don't consider they don't consider adverse health effect. That's what the exact words to. They do not consider adverse health effect.
They don't consider salt?
No.
Well, then maybe they better talk to Oceaner doctors or kidney specialists because it is definitely a health issue.
I agree 110%. We've been pushing it. It's the MCL, the maximum contaminant level. The limit is not. They saying it's not been reached to be able to issue nothing, right? To approve the design just yet. Until we meet the battery test, we had to add different chemicals, descaling agents, and things like that, that we have to prove that it's working. So after we prove that it's working, they will allow us to put it to the public. They're not gonna just, allow us to put until we meet their battery of tests. We had to add three different chemicals. The reverse osmosis is take all the pH out the water.
Yeah, I had that in my house, so
So-
I know very well. how-
So you have to combat that with another chemical. So once you add another chemical, they require you to do another battery of tests. So it's just going through test and step and test and test. So we don't want to make a bad problem worse by just putting it to the system without letting DHA sign off on it and giving their blessing. That's where basically where we're at. We're ready to go. We're just waiting on their blessing to put it to the public.
Okay.
You have a number for somebody in charge I could call?
I can get you one.
Thank you. And is there any way we could get FEMA to maybe water?
Again, we can look in that, again, it's just a state, emergency situation where, I mean, it's just a parish emergency situation where they haven't declared a state. But look, I'll get with my EOC director and see if any way we can get, even community action, we'll look in to see what we can do.
Thank you.
Even with a doctor's slip, where they're required a special diet with no salt, if we could supply some water.
Call Lieutenant Governor.
Mr. Blink?
Certainly, I mean, this,
Call the Lieutenant Governor.
Yeah.
Go, let him out here, put him on hold. Let's go, get the horses running.
Mr. Blink?
so
They're on board.
what's going on, the shipping channel has been deepened, and look, we've benefited from that economically, but Plaquemines is taking the hit, and it's, the deep shipping channel is to benefit the entire nation, right? And I think it's a very reasonable thing for either FEMA or the Corps of Engineers or the port to foot the bill for some bottled water for folks. I think that's a very reasonable thing to ask. The river wouldn't naturally be that deep. There would still be enough flow to push the salt water out, but it's dredged down 50 or 55 feet to accommodate these ever-growing ships, right? And I mean, and the other part of this is, has a robocall went out? Because I'm seeing on social media, a lot of people are unaware of the situation. Maybe there's some sort of health advisory, but I don't know how people are receiving that information. And so, like, has there been, like, the robocall, like when a hurricane's coming, has that went out?
We have given information out on our website, on our Facebook. We can design a robocall for that area of residents to explain. But as Mr. Morgan has explained, it's not a boil water advisory like you said, and it's not a health hazard as DHH says. But we will explain that in the robocall to everyone out there.
Yeah, I mean, the water tastes like a water hose or something. I mean, it's noticeable. It's starting to get to the point. If you have a Sprite, it's really weird.
Thank you. Any other questions? Audience?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I guess I've been sitting back there listening to you all talk about this, and it's an issue. It's been going on for quite a while. It's simple to fix. From a practical standpoint, have you all identified how many people are going to be affected by the saltwater aspect that Ms. LaHaye just talked about that might be affected on it? And if so, why don't we give them bottled water? I mean, there's funds available in all these categories I see floating around. I mean, I'll tell you right now, Bobby, I'll put up $2,500 for bottled water, personally. Let's bet Bobby put up $100,000 out of their funds. You want to get involved in this?
Yes, I second.
Seriously.
I'll second that.
Why don't you find some means of all this money that we all spending to run for office and giving money away, buying T-shirts and all that, to take care of the people that are in need. It's simple enough. That's it. I'll be the first one. I'll put $2,500 up. Somebody match me.
Thank you.
If everybody would just donate a case of water to community action, it may help starting tomorrow.
Well, it would mainly be for those people that
You in?
it's a health issue.
Any other questions? Any other questions from the audience?
Check tomorrow.
Next item on the agenda, please.
And just to be clear, that was update of charter directors, because y'all kind of went right into it, all right.
Can we move
Number
on?
5, bids and advertisements, there are none. Number 6, beer and liquor licenses.
No. I have a question about the directors.
Mr. Chairman?
Oh, okay. And back to 4A, update of charter directors.
I have a question.
Q in, please. Q in.
I have a
Q
question.
in.
I'm sorry. Crystal, you said on your report that you finally got the airplane, the Mosquito airplane working, and y'all gonna start spraying next week. Are y'all planning on posting something on the parish website and on social media, letting know the areas, the time, and the areas where we're spraying? That way people are aware of the areas that are being sprayed?
Yes, we will.
Okay, I just wanted to confirm that. Thank you.
Can we move to 9D?
9D,
Just D as in dog.
an ordinance to approve a new pay plan and classification schedule adopted by the Civil Service Commission to be effective 30 days after the approval by the Plaquemines Parish Council, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto, deferred and carried over from 10/13/22. Council Member Gui.
Dr. Gui offers there a second. Second by Mr. Alborough. Dr. Gui?
Yes, I think the administration has some comments regarding this. It's been on the table several meetings. If you will, sir, go ahead.
Thank you, Dr. Gui, appreciate that. Thank you for carrying the legislation. This legislation before you today is the adoption of the Archer study that we went out and got a comprehensive pay plan for our employees. And it was a long process. We started this in 2021. And now that it's here, we're asking you guys to approve it so we can get a pay raise, not only for our employees this year, but it's already budgeted in the budget for next year. We are having the most difficult time of retaining employees. So I'm going to give you a case in point of what's been happening to us in the last couple of months. We've lost a cherry picker operator and 2 helpers to Gretna because of salary, because of benefits, not more benefits, but more salary. And that leaves me 1 cherry picker in the whole Belle Chase area. We now are about to lose a young lady in one of our administrative departments who would love to stay and make a career out of Plaquemines Parish, but she's got a better offer at a bank. A bank. You know, we could use her as one of these fill-ins or groom her to take over one of these departments. Smart, young, educated, young lady. And we're losing them. We're losing them left and right. And it's a battle every day. So we're here today to ask you guys to look at this. Understand that what we're going through. Adopt this plan. Give these workers the ability to have a good salary. A lot of these workers have second jobs because of the salary where they're at now. We haven't had raises in years. But we have a plan. The money that will be used for the raises right now will come out of vacancies. So it's no effect on the budget. And we have a balanced budget for next year to have these raises for these people. It's not only our classified, but it's our unclassified too. So today we're asking you guys to please support this, support our employees, and let's make it a great day for our employees. So thank you guys.
Thank you. Ms. Newberry?
Kirk, well said. I've been following up with this for the past year, have had several conversations with finance. I know how important it is to keep the employees we have. I am aware of the employees we're losing because of the pay. I have had conversation with employees who are planning on leaving if we don't pass this because of the situation we're in. We are in a time right now where things have doubled and tripled, and our salaries haven't. I think it's important that we do this not just for the employees, but also for the people of Plaquemines because it affects their services that we provide for them. So I just wanted to let you know I do support this for today.
Thank you, Judy.
Ms. LaHaye?
I have just one thing to, well, I have many things to say. I don't like the process that was used by you. I don't like the post that you did, that some people on the council and insinuated that some people basically don't want the employees to have a raise. I want the employees to have a raise. I don't like the process. I don't like getting this at 11 o'clock today. I don't like going to your office and asking who's getting what. I think that is, I've worked a lot of places. How would you like in previous businesses, your comptroller comes and says, I'm going to give 700,000 worth of raises. Do you ask to who's going to get this so you can decide whether it's fair, whether the low people are getting something? We should ask. You're asking us to vote on it, but you don't want us to ask. What's the secret? Why is it such a
Ms.
secret?
LaHaye, did we sit with you with my comptroller and
You did, but then
did we answer every one of your questions?
You did, but I didn't get each individual what, and you also told me you couldn't give it to me so I could take it home and study it. Yes, you told me one person had it. I'm not going to name that person. I even asked you, well, how did that person get it? And I can't get it. I get this. Last night, I called you yesterday and said, where is it in the budget book? How can I find it? Your answer
wait
was.
a minute. And wait a minute. You want to make accusations to me? What was my response?
Point of order.
To call Rochelle in the morning.
And did you do that?
No, I did not.
Okay, thank you.
I didn't have to. Pulled it up, my secretary gave it to me at 11 o'clock. This wouldn't have helped me. This is what I got, right here. This is what I got, and I'm supposed to know what to do with this, who gets what, nothing. We're not allowed to know who gets what, whether it's fair or not to other employees. I want the people to have a raise, but I'm asking you, what is the secret? Why is it such a secret? I'd like that answer. Why is it a secret?
You want me to speak now?
Yes?
The secret was, I didn't have the answer. I asked you to call the comptroller to explain it to you. But you didn't want to. You wanted to make it a personal vendetta against me.
No, sir. I could not call her. It's not a personal vendetta. I don't have time for personal vendettas. You don't know me very well. This is what I got. This is what's in it. I was going to get out on the ferry and ask her. This is it. I have asked you many times. I called you last night at 5 o'clock. I went through that budget book. I took all the employees by department, took 3%, added it to it. Never could I find anywhere where the Archer, I found the 3% only. All the way through, just the 3%. That's why I had the question, where is the money applied with the R? And that's when you said, call her. I did not call her. I could not call her. I was dealing with the state all morning for a bridge and lights so that some of my constituents, and there's no more accidents. That's what I was dealing with all morning, up until I walked in the office at 11 o'clock. And that's when I got this. I'm just asking, what's the secret? Why is it such a big secret? I have no vendetta against anybody, never have. Never in my life. So don't even go there. I'm done.
Mr. Roussel?
Yes, look, we've been up here and we've been talking about this raise, and I haven't heard anybody up here say that they were opposed to this raise. However, the shenanigans that have gone on yesterday afternoon and this morning with the email addressed to all employees, all the judges, all the DAs, was kind of funny to me until I really realized the impact of what you guys were trying to do. And I asked you, Mr. Lapine, what does dither mean? Dither, D-I-T-H-E-R, dither. What does that mean?
That means to do right.
No, that doesn't mean
So,
You see, that's the point.
there you go.
You had, the reason I asked that is because in the email, you had either your attorney or your campaign manager write that email, because you didn't write it. And that's what you put in there, dither. Now, you want to know what the dither definition is? Because I looked it up. To act nervously or indecisively. And I can tell you that I am neither acting nervously or indecisively. And I can tell you that, whoever wrote that email for you does not know everything they need to know, whether it's your attorney or whether it's your campaign manager. Because I read your budget message. You had misinformation in there. Your budget message for 2022 does not have the language that you said you had about asking for the 3% merit increases or any merit increases in the 2022 budget. And here it is. If you don't have a copy of it, I'll provide it for you, Mr. Lapine. It's right here. It does not have that. So the email that was sent this morning was strictly for campaign purposes. But I'm going to put all of that aside right now, and I'm going to tell you that I did make a statement that if you gave us a balanced budget and the money was in the budget, that I would support this. And I will tell you that despite all of the politics that you have played with this issue, I'm going to support it. Because I want to see them get the money, and because I have a budget that Ms. Rochelle gave me the documents this morning that shows me that the money is in the budget. But even after having said all of that, we still got to come back to the budget hearing, and we got to make an amendment to move the money into the budget. Correct line item. Correct? Is that correct?
Yes, we need to move it out of that code that we made to put the difference in and move it into the individual departments. And that was not their fault. That was basically a finance decision because we didn't have time to enter all of the changes that Orchard did and still get the budget out. Because you have to go make a change for each employee.
Right, and I understand that, and that's where Ms. LaHaye is asking for, what is the secret? The secret is that you will not show this body what each employee is going to earn under the Archer study until after this is passed, and then you will put it in the budget and we will see it. And so that's like the cart before the horse, because she wants to know who's getting what. I want to know who's getting what. Somebody else up here might want to know who's getting what. But because y'all have held that secret, no one knows except y'all. And the employees that you used to come out there in the audience and look us in the eye and say, you better vote for this because it's election time. And they did that because your directors brought them here. And I'm going to leave it at that because, the politics are almost over. And hopefully things will get back to normal and your directors will get back to doing what they're doing instead of playing the politics that they're playing. So, to answer the question, I'm going to support this for the employees because the finance department proved to me that the money is in the budget. But we still got to go to the budget hearing to make implementation for next year. So, my point is that it was all coming down to the budget anyway.
Ms. LaHaye, Ms. LaHaye, Ms. LaHaye, Ms. LaHaye, excuse me. If you want to cue in, Mr. LaFrance.
Yes, I need to know what is the amount of the raise from the lowest to the highest.
Well, 3% of nothing is nothing, but 3% of 100,000.
That's
What the
unclassified.
total cost with me.
Can she, civil service director? Can the civil service director kind of answer that question? How the raise is based on?
No, you want to know.
No, I want to know what is the least amount of the raise and what is the highest amount of the raise.
For the grades? Yeah.
You're talking about say the bridge tender and then the director?
I want to know, is it from 3,000 to 5,000? Is it from 2,000 to 10,000? Give us a number. Somebody got to give us a number.
Out of the whole
We voting on
employees,
something that we don't have the numbers?
Mr. LaFrance, all of that information was given to you.
I'm asking it here in front of the office, in front of the audience.
So-
in front of the public. Give us the answer. So if it was given to me, then you ought to have it.
You ought to have it too.
I do have it.
Well, I'm asking. I can't read it.
Well, we know that.
What is the numbers? Mr. LaHaye want to know, huh?
Yes?
You want to know, Rob?
No, sir. Not yet.
Mr. LaFrance, all council members were provided a comparison peer range with, I don't know if you all have this sheet. It was given to y'all in your packets. The first one on top is a tractor driver 2. It shows the Archer study, his annual and his hourly pay.
In this,
Once,
in this packet?
no, in the packet that we gave in the beginning, when we started this. And in the meetings, we gave you all this copy.
Ms. Taylor, I'm sorry, but that's not.
Well, let me give you a number, okay?
That's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for.
I can tell you how much the increase would be on this tractor driver.
What is the least amount of raise any employee is going to get to the highest? If one person, that's, how many employees we have? 400 employees?
254.
254. What is the lowest going to be? Somebody going to get? And what is the highest a person going to get?
While they looking for that, can we go to the next person?
It's going to be impossible unless you want to sit here for 2 hours and go down each line item and each grade and each position and go over how much each person is going to get as an increase. All of the information was provided to you all prior to the August 11th meeting where we first talked about this. We've had months to go over these issues.
We didn't get a list of every employee and what they was making.
You didn't get a list with everybody's name on it.
We got a
You got a
list,
list of
we got a list with a
positions.
tractor driver, a truck driver, and something like
You
that.
got a list of
with-
positions.
With 5 positions.
So if you know somebody that's a tractor driver, you'll know what it is that they're going to make.
So they all make the same thing?
So it depends on what step they're on.
I know why. That's why I'm trying to get the civil service guy,
I know they
director to answer that.
I know they don't know the answer.
The study was not
There
done
we
on
go again. When we
individuals.
talk about we have a problem with transparency. The people in the audience, the people who's watching these council meetings, there's questions they ask me. I should be able to answer. Well, here's an opportunity to give everybody the answer.
Mr. LaFrance, the study was not done on individuals. It was done on positions. And there's a lot that factors into what was done to get where we are today. Grades, steps, years of service, all that come into play. It is not an individual. A truck driver, we may have a truck driver that's been here 2 years. We may have a truck driver that's been here 15 years. All that come into play.
We live in a day and age where we have computers where you can type this in and it give you the answer. We're not living back in the 60s or in the 40s.
I don't know what the answer is.
Give me the mic.
You finished, Mr. LaFrance?
Well, I'm still waiting on the answer.
So we have given you a list of the positions, okay?
Here's another way where we can give our.
You know, Mr.
employees a
Villa
raise.
France?
We can give the people who's doing work, go give them $2,000, and their buddies, they can give them $10,000. We want transparency.
I'm
We
sorry,
wanna
what are
see
you
what's going
accusing?
on, And we need.
They
this
buddies,
out.
they can give them $10,000? Is that what you just said? Whose buddies?
Oh, I don't know.
This
You
was
just
done,
accused us.
this is a study that was done by a professional corporation from Ohio that had nothing to do with us and our buddies. This was done by an independent corporation to do a competitive wage study. The competitive wage study was done based on what those people provided that they do on a daily basis. They all filled out information sheets. Those information sheets were taken and they were compared to other municipalities and other businesses in the area, and that's where they came up with the rates.
And that's
This
the
had
problem
nothing to
that
do
you
with
read
buddies.
about the orchard study, because you might give it to somebody that's, say, a grass cutter. What do you do for your job? I cut grass. But you'll give it to somebody that makes something else. What do you for your job? Well, I do this, I do that, I do another thing, I do something else. And who's gonna get the bigger raise? The one who just cuts grass or the one who's got multiple things in his?
That's why it's done by position, Mr. Konovich. There's several grass cutters. They're called groundskeepers, actually. And there were several of them that filled out sheets. That's why it's done by position. And then they go and look at job descriptions. It's not just done by that information sheet. There's a lot of information that goes into this.
And the pay scale that we are under right now, how did we come upon this pay scale? Was it done by an Orchard study?
Many years
Done by an
ago.
Orchard study previous.
Many years
And
ago.
now we're doing another Orchard study. So are you telling me in every 10 years we're gonna have to do an Orchard study?
Well, would you like the employees to have the same pay scale for 20 years or 30 years?
No.
I mean,
think that's
you know,
why employees get
there's factors.
Step increase and they get raises.
There's factors that go into effect. You know, if you look at the cost of a gallon of gasoline or a gallon of milk or a pound of ham, everything's gone up dramatically recently. The inflation in the economy has to be compensated for. So for us to be competitive in the job market, we have to have a pay plan study done so we can hire people and we can retain people. If you want to tell the employees that we should not do a pay plan study,
Go to the store and buy a gallon of milk, he gotta pay $5. No matter if a supervisor, he gotta pay $5. But yet, you gonna give one person a certain amount of raise, and then you're gonna give another person a certain amount of raise, and that's where your wealth gap keep on getting wider and wider.
it is not.
That's why I'm never for a
not-
percentage raise, and that's why I'm never for a percentage raise.
It's not a
That's why I'm
percentage
always
raise.
for
It's not.
a flat raise.
It's not a percentage
But when
raise.
we ask the question,
But
we
I'll
came
tell
with the
you,
answer.
a tractor driver 2 is going to get a 32% increase.
Mhm.
I know you're not for a percentage raise, but a tractor driver 2 is going to get a 32% increase. It's
What
not
is
hard
a
to figure
tractor
out.
driver two? Tell me. What is that? What is a tractor? What's the difference between a tractor
Ms. LaHaye.
one and a two?
Excuse me, LaFrance has the floor.
Oh, I'm
and
sorry.
You all
I'm just helping you. Well, I'm
You finished,
curious
Mr.
when you
LaFrance?
say that, a tractor driver too.
Mr. Blink, Miss Rochelle?
All right, I think this is what he's looking for. On grade 6, which is the lowest grade that we have, the starting salary, the minimum is $21,157. And then the highest grade that we have here is 38. And the starting salary for that is $79,551.
Say that again?
Okay, the lowest grade that we have here at the parish is grade 6. And the starting salary for that is $21,157. And then the highest grade, which is 38. And the starting salary for that is $79,551.
And that's exempt employees or
No,
everybody?
this is only classified. This is what this study would do.
Mr. Blink?
In the time that everybody was arguing about this, I then sent it to two people in the audience. Is right here. If I could have just had my time on the floor, could have got that to y'all. But is this enough? Are we going to be here in 2 years doing this again?
The original study, he had suggested after that this was to be reviewed every 3 years at the minimum. And we have never done that. And the original study was done in '08.
And what's the cost of getting this done?
08?
Since we paid for a full-blown study, it was $25,000?
$24,500.
$24,500.
And y'all are confident this is enough?
No, because I could tell you, I understand how employees are moving. Where I work, we have it. I'm short 3 deckhands, and we pay over $20 an hour, and they going. It's not only happening at the parish, it's everywhere. And
I mean, at some point, it's more than pay too. I mean, you know, menial task where heavy equipment isn't needed, you're probably going to have to rethink some of the drug testing requirements, among other things. There's going to have to be other benefits that are going to be considered, maternity leave, paternity leave, that kind of thing.
We would
Maybe
be
you can go
happy
a
to
little
bring
deeper.
suggestions to civil service, but because we have civil service has to say what we can do and what we can't do prior to us doing it.
Understandable.
Yeah. Yeah, let me just say this. We gave everyone a list of positions. All you got to do is look at the old positions and compare them. We gave a minimum, midpoint range that's available for public record. Everybody has that. All anyone's got to do is go in there and compare the rates. And you know, it looks like, well, the administration did this and came up with this. This was done between the Archer study and the Civil Service director, and then it was sent to the Civil Service Commission, who one of the commissioners used to be a former director, and they looked at this very closely. They asked a bunch of questions and probed, and they're the ones who ultimately approved the implementation plan. And it's their job to go through and make sure that fair is fair. So it's not Todd Eppley giving the tractor driver $2,000 or Kirk Lapine giving the other guy $20,000. It's done through an independent third party, and it's done through civil service. And civil service looked at the pay plan, looked at the classification scale, and they looked at it and they determined it to be fair. That's their job. That's what they do, and that's why we put it in regards to positions. In the past, names have been given out, and then it becomes a bunch of, oh, well, so-and-so got this and so-and-so got that, and it becomes highly political. What's important is the position, not who's in the position. What's important is, no, I'm just saying, I'm just making a general comment. And so it's not the administration's hiding who's getting what, who's getting this. It's position-based, and it's based on the rates that were approved by the Civil Service Commission and the implementation plan that they presented to you and that we're presenting to you all to adopt.
Thank you, Ray. Now, one other question.
You got to cue back in, you took yourself out.
I'm sorry. I
Just-
can't.
Mr. Roussel.
Yes, so, you know, I appreciate the dance. The question is, and we didn't even ask names, but the names are already there what the proposed new salary will be. And you have it, correct?
I don't have it.
Who has it?
I think the Civil Service Director has it.
No, who has it?
Who has it, Mr. Russo?
You do?
Who has it, Mr. Russo?
You do.
Who has it?
You do.
You do.
Oh, now you broke the confidence, right? See, I have it.
Oh, he,
Because
Because you wanted to play coy.
I'm not, well, no, because I'm a man of my word, Mr. Lapine. When I forced the issue.
Wait, a man of your word?
That's correct.
Okay. A man of your word.
Mr. Lapine, I'm not going to debate with you. It's I got the floor. You can have it after I'm off. I'm a man of my word, and if you're talking about if I'm going to vote for this, I told you already I would, as soon as you gave me the budget.
Mr. Gu, you want to call the question?
No, I'm having a debate with you, Mr. Lapine.
I don't want to have a debate.
I know, that's Mr. Lapine.
We have to have audience
Look,
participation.
you've been trying to sneak this through for quite a while. You have the numbers. The big secret is who gets what that you don't want to put out there on the table. And I never asked for names just now. And because you know this is public record. And that's why I was able to obtain it, because if I couldn't get it, I would force the public records law on you. Now, if other members would ask for it under the public records request, you would have to provide it under the law. And so the question is asked, what is the least amount an employee will receive under the Archer study to the highest amount an employee will receive under the Archer study? Because some of those, I saw a couple of them that were in the red. So does that mean you're going to take away money from a couple of employees? So everybody stays whole, even if they're in the red under Archer, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so what is the least amount an employee will get to the highest amount an employee will get that is on the payroll today?
I do not have that.
It's approximately $300 to $19,000. Some people get a $19,000 raise, some people get a $300 raise. Correct?
People get $19,000?
Well, y'all wanted to hide this issue, and that's why we're having this debate.
But again, the people who got the higher raises, I have to say, are the people that have been here almost 30 years.
Look, there's no question about that. There's no question about what the process was. but the question and the hiding of it, and the day after we adopt this, that all becomes public record. It's all public record now, to tell you the truth, but you're gonna put it in the budget, and when we get the budget next week or next month, the world will see it. So why you hide it from the board that has the vote on it? That's the point. There's no communication here because, as the attorney said, it becomes all political. There can't be much more politicized in this situation than what y'all have done. And I'm going to rest my case on it. I'm going to vote for it. And because the employees deserve it, this board deserves the transparency that you are hiding the numbers.
Mr. Blink?
Sure. So it sounded like some folks get a 32% raise. What about the non-classified employees that do a lot of work around here? What
3% is what's suggested right now.
3%? And some folks are getting a 32% raise. Y'all talk about the equity of that?
The council can adopt what it wants. I believe there are conversations.
Oh, now it's us?
I believe there were discussions with Dr. Gui that unclassified employees, because they are unclassified, generally have received from year to year 3%. So I think there were some discussions, and the parish president said he thought 3% was appropriate and that it would be difficult to maybe get more than that. But the council today could give unclassified people 10% if they want. But from year to year, it's typically been 3%. It was, I think, some members' understanding that that would probably be appropriate. But you could also let the numbers come out, let the chips fall where they may. And if y'all look at the budget and want to give some of the unclassified persons additional funds next year, the new council can do that with no problem.
Done?
I feel like I've got more questions than before we started, especially hearing about some employees going backwards and such.
Nobody will lose money. I'm going to show you that. They will be made to make almost basically what they're making now. These are the people that the study found that they were basically making market value.
Those all.
And just for the record, nothing's going to change, because if y'all don't like it, or y'all are unsatisfied with some of this, it just goes back to the Civil Service Board. And the Civil Service Board is going to look at the Archer study and look at what an independent third party did and said, what is fair based off of positions, based off of duties, based off of whatever. And they're going to look at that, and I can tell you, they're going to come back with the same result that they've come now. That's why civil service is in place. That's why a third party is used, so that it's not politicized. And that's what they've come up with. And you may do an Archer study 2 years from now, and the numbers may be different. And if they're different because of, I don't know, the job market changes or things change, that's going to be determined at a future date. But this was done based on a national, based off of a national company did this, the Civil Service Commission approved it, and they are not going to let the council, as a matter of fact, it's illegal, to let the council go in and pick and choose, well, I don't like you gave the tractor driver $6,000 and you gave, whoever else $2,000. So
You're saying a lot, and I've got some questions that I want to tease out so I could better understand. So where all of the non-classified employees have a broad range of duties, and we have expectations for them that vary across the board. It's a spectrum of employees, but they're all getting 3%. And I just want to better understand that without so many words, though. Can you help explain to me like I'm 5?
So the unclassified employees, who you're talking about are the directors, you're talking about the attorneys, you're talking about the judges' employees, you're talking about the district employees, and you're talking about the council secretaries.
Yes.
Those are the unclassified employees. Their duties are whatever basically you tell them to do, okay? And so that could change depending on the position and based on what you decide you want your employee to do, based on what the DA decides he wants his employee to do, and on down the line. And so those duties is not the same as a classified service. They're unclassified, they're at will, and basically you have to do whatever your boss tells you to do. And so, like I said before, traditionally across the board, those folks got what was called a cost of living increase of 3% annually. And I'm sure the judges would come in and pitch that their people should make more money. I'm sure the district attorney will come in and pitch that his folks should make more money. But once again, their budgets are bottom line budgets. So based on this, 3% in the personal service budget, or whatever the current existing employees are going to make, or whatever they have on their, in their personal services budget, that's going to increase by 3%. The judge could fire somebody. The judge could take 10,000 from one person and give another person 10,000 extra dollars because he or she's going to change duties. And so that's why unclassifieds are treated differently.
Got it. Thank you. The way I'm looking at it is this really should be done at the budget hearing. It's a weird political move right before the election. And, the non-classified employees are a much smaller pool and they're kind of being forgotten about and not handled in an equitable way. And I just hate to see that, right? But I yield.
Mr. LaFrance?
So, correct me what I heard, that some people are not going to get a raise?
Some people will get just a minimal of like he said, a couple of $100 raise because, like I said, those were the people that the study pretty much found that they were making market rate.
Well, that's the Archer part of it. They'll still get the 3%.
That's great. They're at market rate. If they went out in the job market and said, so-and-so here at the parish is making $32,000, and they look at nationwide and that person's making $32,000, they're not going to get an increase. But if there's another position and we become way behind on that, then the market study is going to show that that person isn't being paid what we're paying them or anywhere near that, and they're going to request that the difference occur.
I also went and dug into a few people because I was curious, and these were people that either took demotions along the way, so they were making a higher rate of pay, and then they took a demotion and went to a lower grade. But when you take a demotion, you basically carry that higher rate of pay. So that's why they didn't basically get a raise now, because they were already making a higher rate than the other people in that classification.
Thank you. Mr. LaFrance?
I feel the same way like Mr. Blank. I felt that this should have been held up until we did that budget, until we did the budget here. Again, the last time when we was at the council meeting, that's what we agreed upon. I thought that's what we agreed upon. So I'm surprised that Dr. Gui is moving forward with this today. What is the difference? Tell me what is the difference? Why are we moving on this today? Dr. Gui?
The difference is we are...
Dr. Gui?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Can you turn his
When was
mic
this
on?
put on the agenda? What day was this put on the agenda?
It's been deferred since...
No, I mean the first day. What was the first day? August 11th. And there were questions, a lot of questions, good questions. And we got a promise from the administration that they would answer all of the questions that anyone had. And when the administration felt satisfied that they had answered the questions to everyone's satisfaction, that we would move on this item. I'm doing this because of the job market, the rate of inflation, and our employees deserve a raise. I didn't think about the politics that were going to get involved. All I thought about was the welfare of our employees and are we being fair to them relative to the job market. We hired a third-party company that does this for a living, and they came in and evaluated the job positions. I don't know anyone here that could have done that independently. So the Archer study happened to be the Archer people who did it, and they came and they said, this is the science that we use that is pretty much the standard everywhere, and this is what we recommend. So having that being done, having the administration telling me that they've opened the doors, let people come look, I'm satisfied with that. And so it's up for a vote. We don't have to vote for it. We can vote against it. And like you said, we'll come into budget hearings and it'll all start for next year. So that's why it's there. I mean, make up your mind. If you want to vote for it, good. If you don't, you don't. and then let's be done with it.
So, since you hear us debating this item, you think everybody sitting at this table, that all our questions was answered today?
I wasn't with everyone every moment of the day.
No,
and
no,
every,
no.
and every meeting you had with them, so I'm not equipped to answer whether everyone's questions were answered. It was open to be done. I've been told that those who came to ask questions, their questions were answered, the papers were given. Now, I'm hearing different things today from some of the council members, and I'm not questioning that. I'm just saying that if that's what happened. But you asked me why I'm putting it up today. I put it up in August and let everybody have their say and try to work out this, and apparently these things weren't worked out. Today, it's up for a vote. I mean, if we're going to vote on it, let's vote on it. If we're not, vote no. We'll take it up at the budget hearings for next year. I think it's that simple. You know, if we didn't get our questions in, I got my questions answered. I spent time with them and went through it, and, you know, I was pretty happy with the result. I couldn't have done a better job. I mean, that's the answer I have, Mr. LaFrance. I don't know what you're looking for, but that's what I got.
So here's a question for you, Ms. Rochelle. If we was to wait to the budget hearing and approve the pay raises, could it be retroactive?
No. That question came up years ago
Mhm.
with a raise, and they had gotten an opinion from the Attorney General. And the answer was that we couldn't do a retroactive raise. But I do know that the school board just did it. You know, I guess we could get another opinion, maybe, but I know when we asked years ago, they told us no.
You.
And also the difference of doing it now to the budget hearings, if it was to be adopted today, and that's the difference of waiting, is that this could go into effect 30 days from today. The employees could get their raise in their first check in December. If you wait for the budget hearings, they have to wait till probably mid-January. And that's, you wanted to know what the difference was. That would be the only difference.
We couldn't change that 30-day?
No, that's in the civil service rule book, that you have to give them 30 days to
Implement
the raise.
Ms. LaHaye?
I just have one area of questions. The unclassified, they missed 2 annual raises, is that correct? Of 3%?
Yes, the whole workforce did.
Okay. Civil service did the same thing? They missed their 2-3%? Civil service, are you, in the Archer study and in your figures, have you figured back in those 2 times that they lost?
No.
So, but they're going to get their 3% plus the, whatever the Archer study says.
They do not get the 3%.
I mean, 3%. They're going,
Only the unclassified will get a 3% cost of living raise.
right. That's, I'm speaking civil service now.
Now, civil service will get whatever raise according to the Orchard study.
But they don't normally get a 3%?
They normally, in a normal year, you would get a 3% merit or whatever.
Okay.
You get evaluated. And whatever your score is on an evaluation corresponds to whatever percentage merit increase you get. So it can go anywhere from 0 to 4.
Okay, so civil service will get the Archer study, whatever that is, and plus their merit raise.
No.
Is that in
no
the
merit
budget?
raise budgeted, just the.
Well, they're not going to get the merit.
For the following year, if there's enough money in the budget, the council in the next year's budget can approve the merit increases. And so the directors and the superintendents will review all of the employees and give them ratings, 2, 3, 4, and then whatever rating they get would be the percentage of merit increase they get. But at the end of the day, the council still has to adopt the funds to provide that merit raise.
Right.
So I guess the answer to your question is, yes, next year, if we give merit increases and there's enough money in the budget to support whatever those merit increases would increase the overall budgets by, that would be done at that time.
Okay, so I understand. So in the budget is the 3% cost of living for the unclassified, but they're not going to get any of the two that they missed.
No,
No.
And they'll never catch up,
no,
which is basically 6%.
right.
No.
Did Archer study take that into consideration at all?
No, Archer study had nothing to do with the unclassified employees.
Right, but, so civil service, they left that out of completely.
Well, the civil service has no authority or control over unclassified employees.
No, but I mean, I know that.
No,
I'm
they did
moving
not
back
add an
and
extra
forth.
6%.
So the civil service employees, they're getting strictly the Archer, nothing else.
That's it.
Okay. And the unclassified is getting strictly their 3% cost of living and nothing of the back amount.
Which, that 3%, y'all can change that to whatever y'all want. 3, 4, 5. I mean, different numbers were thrown around. We just went with the average of what the workforce got every year, which was 3%. But y'all can change that.
Okay. Okay, you've answered my question.
Mr. Bartholomew?
Archer study, was it predicated based on our region, a lot of it, to evaluate the employees based on their recommendation for salaries? Because if not, we're gonna be in trouble.
Rochelle Lambert, Civil Service Director. Councilman Bartholomew, can you repeat the question?
Did the Archer study, their findings of the salary increase or job description, did they include this region? Louisiana region?
Yes, there were the local parish governments that are complementary to us,
And businesses?
not private sector.
So just governmental entities?
I'm sorry?
Just governmental entities?
That's correct.
Well, that won't really give us a big spectrum of what we really need to pay people to maintain them in skilled areas. Because if that's the case, we'll have some more problems. But I understand what you're saying, where it's coming from. Strictly government employees, personnel. Okay. The other question I have, can this council appropriate for next year a merit increase in operational budget for next fiscal year?
Yes.
So we need to have a committee meeting, a budget hearing to implement all that, right?
Yes.
Oh, so we do everything at one time.
One other comment about the private sector versus public sector that's important to know is that obviously civil service employees are protected. So they're given a lot of benefits in terms of ultimate termination of them. And so that is a benefit that the private sector doesn't have because obviously they're at will. So it would make sense that you would compare other public sector folks who have the civil service protections that you otherwise wouldn't find in the private sector.
I guarantee you, 85% of employees wouldn't agree with that. I can tell you that, right?
Remember,
Mr. Roos?
sorry. Remember, the public sector and government, those are classified, so those salaries are by pay plan and they're controlled. Private sectors are not. I'm sorry? Okay.
Can you turn his mic on?
The civil service, according to the terms you was talking about, they have more protection employees, where the people in the workforce outside of the protection of the civil service don't. It's more self-independent, defending themselves. But I'm saying that a lot of the employees don't agree, saying they have the best scenario possible when they work for the government. Not necessarily but the government itself. Because it becomes indirectly under some political entities or stressful entities for things that they do. And that happens anywhere else as well. But it doesn't merit that they can find things obsessively wrong, but it's not normal.
Thank you. Mr. Roussel?
Yes, you said the local governments. Which parishes were compared to put this study together?
There was Jefferson, Orleans, Lafourche, St. Charles, St. Bernard, Kenner, those surrounding metro areas. And actually, the study is currently going on with Jefferson Parish as we speak.
Jefferson, Orleans, Lafourche, St. Bernard?
Kenner, I'm not sure the remainder. Do you have the list with you? St. Tammany also.
And so the job descriptions were gathered up, and they were an average of all of those parishes together that come up with the recommended pay scale?
It wasn't job descriptions, it were surveys that were conducted. Surveys were conducted through each employees and departments, and then that was submitted to the Archer Company. And based on those job duties under those titles, they did like comparisons to those surrounding metro areas that were like positions to be able to compare those salaries to come up with what the market is, and the analysis is based on that.
So you take and you send a survey out to a tractor driver and you ask him what his job is. And he sends it back to you, and that is what you use to determine what he does and compare it to the market.
That is submitted to his supervisor. His supervisors validate that this is actual job duties that they're doing. That is submitted into a system that the Archer Company has set up when they're conducting their analysis, and that allows them to do like comparisons. So there's a whole conglomerate of things that are taken in consideration, not just the surveys.
Well, you see, I've always looked at that as being a disadvantage for the guy who works out in the field, filling out a form versus an attorney sitting in his office filling out a form as to what he does. Because naturally, you know, his education level would be such that he could list 100 things. And a tractor driver would have to say, I cut grass, or I maintain the tractor. And so that gives, you know, him a disadvantage, even though he pays the same for a gallon of milk as the other guy. And I know y'all laugh over there. You know, y'all continue to play your games, but that's how it works, you know? Anyway, I'm going to yield because these guys over here have really, you know, gotten me to a point where I don't want to say anymore.
Thank you. Any questions, audience? Y'all don't all jump up at the same time. Remember your 5 minutes.
Give him 10.
Did I get somebody else's 5 minutes?
No.
Donald Valley. First off, you have a tough road to hoe. Our employees are our most valuable assets, and we have to take care of them first. Without them, we're nothing. You can't do anything. Just like I've talked to you all about, unless we get flood protection down here, we don't need anything else in the parish. Y'all have done an admirable job with the OSHA report. I don't agree with it, and I'm not a fan of civil service. And for your information, I helped take this housing authority in New Orleans out of civil service. It was a tough fight, but it afforded them abilities to work within their budgets, restaffing your organization, and comparable. I don't know if you all are there yet, and I think you're working with what you have. I used to employ at one time 1,600 people, and I went through budget meetings and budget meetings and budget meetings. And it's really simple. What money we got coming in, and what are our operations, what it's going to cost us to operate, very simply. What I asked for was a staffing report by department of what it's going to take to run that department for this year and up to 5 years, projections going forward. I asked equally show me what the current salaries were in that department and show me what we're going to have to do to satisfy and retain employees into that going forward. Simple analysis. You all only have 250 employees to deal with. It should be able to answer any one of their questions that they have or the public has on what they make, what should they make, what can they make, because money isn't the only thing that people work for. There's other areas that people enjoy and recognize that are recognition. Money's a portion of the equation. But at the same time, we're we're not a rich parish. We may have a one-time windfall this coming year of Global Venture, with that $8 million we got. But you shouldn't calculate anything in your budgets about raises or anything else until what we can afford. And I'm gonna say it, without any new taxes, okay? Because y'all been preaching that for a long time to everybody, and so's all the politicians around here. No new taxes. Live within our means. Now, that doesn't mean we gotta make people work for peanuts. It should be fair, reasonable wages that we pay everybody. And I've never read your Archer report, and I know you have a tough road to hoe over there, Todd. You know, it's frustrating. Not everybody wants to take the time to delve in details, but what I heard several meetings ago was we're going to let this go and we'll bring it up when we do the budget hearings. And I think that's where we need to be. All this should be done at a budget meeting, detailed by department, and fully explain with the department heads what we've done in years past. I've sat with Mr. Fauché and a couple other people with the budget hearings in details. We need to do that again. And I think these people, the politicians you have up here now, through the end of the year, have told you they're willing to go along with increases for people if you can justify it and if the revenue's there for it. Nobody wants to hurt anybody or suppress anybody. So I'm asking you, put it off to your budget hearings, go into your details. I can tell you, I'll help you. You want time? I'll sit down with you, tell you some suggestions about what information they may want and what the public wants.
Mr. Valley, you had 1,600 employees, you just stated.
I did twice.
So we are in a situation now where we're losing employees almost daily. So time is of the essence. We do not have time to wait until budget hearings to where these people won't get this money in their checks until January. They need the money before Christmas. We want to get it done before Christmas for our employees. The budget has been presented. This August 11th was a meeting where we first presented the Archer study. There's been plenty of time to go over this, and we've been accommodating for all of it. It's time to pass this for the employees.
Todd, in all respect to you, if you're going to have an employee leave between now and the end of the year, they're going to leave anyway. And they got better opportunities. I can tell you, we have a situation in this parish right now where every heavy equipment operator could go work with Global Venture making probably at least 100% more than they're making now, okay? They can move to other places. My concern has been in this parish is business retention of the existing business we have before we go look for Owen, keeping the existing employees that we have out here and at reasonable wages.
Thank you, Mr. Valley.
Rob Fauché. Okay, so is there another company somewhere in this country that does what the Archer Group does? I'm sure there are. I can remember back when I worked for Billy, back into the 2008 adoption of the Archer study, we did the exact same thing. We went to the employees of the parish and we had them fill out descriptions of their work, of what they did. A lot of them needed help. They got the help from their supervisors, and there were several of them that came to my office with reference to that. There's no doubt that we need money for these people that hit the ground, that actually get the work done. Unfortunately, we are paying an astronomical amount of money for the people that do not do the work. They're not prepared when they come in and talk to you. They don't have the answers for you guys. Personally, there needs to be some adjustments on that side. But I'll go a little bit further. The guys that are doing the work, the money that could be saved from cutting some of the overhead in this parish could put these people that are hitting the ground over the mark that they are, or where they should be throughout the workforce. Now, the Archer study looked at different parishes. My issue with the Archer study that was done is that look at the parishes that they did the study on. How many of those parishes have 25,000 citizens in their parish? I would venture to say there's none. Maybe the city of Kenner comes close to the population of the city of Kenner, if you were going to look at that. Did I hear anything about Sabine Parish? Did I hear anything about the comparison to any of those parishes in this state that has a population in relation to our population? Because the work that needs to be done in our parish, besides it being the link that it is and the trials and tribulations of getting that work done, besides that, the population is 25,000 people. You can't get around that. So why and how are we going to base a salary off of a parish like Jefferson or Orleans or these other parishes that I heard that be said, whenever these people have, there's populations that we dwarf that. So I just think that there should be some comparison, some true, legitimate, equal comparisons. And I'll yield for that.
Thank you. Mr. Blank?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's not the employee's fault that we have a small population here, but I mean, there's potentially thousands of acres to cut. I mean, there's a lot of work here. You still have to do all the administrative stuff that the bigger parishes have to do. I mean, they deserve more money. We haven't given them a raise in a long time because we haven't been able to afford it. We could finally afford it. You know.
Yes, sir.
Burgard Turner, 161 East Bellevue, Port Sulphur. Just a couple of things. What I get from Mr. LaFrance, he's against a percentage raise, and so he's talking about a flat raise. The only way you can do that is if you determine what your budget is for a raise. Once you've set that, what you feel you can afford, evidently you've already made that determination because you're saying you can afford the Archer study. So with that determination, you know the total amount, then you just divide it among the employees equally. And so that doesn't change your pay plan. So what that does is it just moves the individual up on the grade within the pay plan that already exists. So that's how you would accomplish what Mr. LaFrance is talking about. Whatever that budget is, you just divide that by the employees, everybody gets the same. That's why he's asking how much, who's getting on the bottom, who's getting on the top. He's talking across the board if I'm understanding him correctly. The other thing is, when you talk about a cost of living raise, the cost of milk is the same for everybody, whether you're classified or unclassified. And so the unclassified, you shouldn't call it a cost of living raise if you're just going to give it to, if you're going to discriminate and give it to a certain segment. And I'm not talking based on race, I'm talking based on position, just because they're unclassified. Don't call it a cost of living. If you're going to call it a cost of living, give it to everybody, right? Now, excuse me, being unclassified, if you feel that an individual deserves a raise, well, then you come before the council and you give that individual a raise. Or if you want to decide on a percentage that you want to give an individual or a group of individual, you can do that. All I'm saying is don't call it cost of living. Because if you're going to call it cost of living, the cost of milk is the same whether you're classified or unclassified. And just because somebody is getting a merit increase, we're giving that based on their performance. Cost of living is based on the cost of living. And so I think you should make that distinction and don't use the term cost of living. If you're going to give cost of living, don't discriminate and just give it to the unclassified. Do it across the board. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from the audience? Gonna take a 5-minute recess. At 6:16 PM. With no more questions, Mr. Gui, going with it? Machines are open? Passes 9-0. Can we go back to the agenda?
Bids and advertisements, there are none.
Getting a raise. Yes, sir.
Number 6, beer and liquor licenses.
If anybody has any, queue in. If you have a beer and liquor license, or none.
Okay. Item number 7, building permits.
Wait, you can-
Don't you have a liquor license, I mean, a special event permit?
Thought we voted on that suspension.
No. That was,
Got a Orange Festival, 225 Wilson Street, Belchase. With that, I'll offer.
Second.
Second by Mr. Alborough. Machines open. It passes 9-0.
Number 7, building permits. A, construction permits. 1, Magnolia Terminal LLC, application number 2022-734 dated August 5th, 2022. Install 4 midstream ship berths secured by anchor piles, chains, and buoys, and install 3 barge fleets and 6 barge tiers, which will be secured by 2 monopiles per tier. West Point, Lahash, deferred, Councilmember LaFrance.
So offered.
Mr. LaFrance offers there a second.
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Blink. Any questions? Machines are open. Passes 8 with 1 abstention.
7C, Shady Oaks Trailer and RV Park, Frank Daigle, final approval for 1 additional trailer park space, Shady Oaks Lane, Belchase, Louisiana. Councilmember Blink.
I'd like to offer.
Mr. Blink offers there a second. Second by Mr. Roussel. Any questions? Machines open.
Councilmember LaFrance? Thank you.
Passes 9-0.
Item D, P&T Soul Food LLC, business occupancy for a food truck, fixed location, 29966 Highway 23, Home Place, Louisiana. Councilmember LaFrance.
So offered.
Mr. LaFrance offers there a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Blink. Any questions? Machines open.
Mr. Kognovich,
Passes 9-0.
take a moment of privilege here. Ask him when opening day is going to be.
When's opening day? Cap,
Mr. Marys,
when's it opening?
when is open day?
You just got it.
Thank you.
Want to support y'all. Let us know when y'all are going to open, when y'all get a chance.
Mr. Garrett?
Number 8, introductions of ordinances and resolutions.
We have many. The following are for Councilmember Kognovich, an ordinance to amend sections 2147 and 21137A10 in the Code of Ordinance, Section 7J, Ordinance Number 2264, to provide sufficient size of fire hydrant water lines and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. An ordinance authorizing the parish president to execute a lease extension for another 5 years with a 5-year option to renew the primary lease agreement between Plaquemines Parish Government and Madera and Sons Marine Corps for the leasing of lots 47, 48, 49 of the Venice Jump Basin, Venice, Louisiana, lease dated November 14, 2002, registered in COB 1035, Folio 316, to freeze the annual rental rate amount of $18,615.94 and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. An ordinance to amend And as amended, readopt Section 4 of Ordinance Number 142, the Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance of Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, as amended, and the Comprehensive Zoning District Map therein adopted in reference, and which is paraph thereto, with reference to application number 2022-498, dated August 17th, 2022. An ordinance to amend the 2022 General Fund Road Maintenance Fund Operating Revenue and Expenditure Budgets, Flood Control Department, General Department, Recreation Facilities and Services Department, and Road Maintenance Public Right-of-Way Department, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. An ordinance to amend the 2022 operating revenue and expenditure budgets with various funds, various departments, various line items, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. An ordinance to amend the 2022 five-year capital improvements plan, various projects, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. And the following two are for Councilmember Newberry: an ordinance approving a plan of re-subdivision of Lot 10-C, Jesuit Bend, Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, into lots 10C1, 10C2, 10C3, 10C4, and 10C5, Jesuit Bend, Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, is shown on the plan and plat of survey by Dufresne Surveying and Engineering, Inc., dated April 6, 2022, the owner having fulfilled all the requirements of the subdivision and re-subdivision ordinance of the parish of Plaquemines without cost to the Plaquemines Parish government or the parish of Plaquemines, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. An ordinance to amend the five-year capital improvement plans, repair Ollie Pump Station project, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
A resolution approving the request for a conditional use to a Vulcan Materials Company to operate an open storage of construction materials and aggregate supplies in a FP floodplain zoning district located on a certain tract of land designated as the northern portion of International Marine Terminals property. Parcel number 1269400, Highway 23, Myrtle Grove, Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, Section 5, Township 16 South Range 25 East, all in accordance with the application number 2022-500 dated August 22, Councilmember LaFrance. An ordinance to amend the 2022 General Fund Operating Expenditure Budget, Flood Control General Department, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto, Councilmember LaFrance. A resolution approving the issuance of a third two-year extension commencing upon the expiration of the current two-year extension period to Woodland Borough Pits, LLC, for the existing sand pit on property located in a FP floodplain zoning district at 22441 Highway 23, Port Sulphur, Louisiana, and all in accordance with application number 2014-4771 dated January 7th, 2013. Councilmember LaFrance. An ordinance to amend the 2022 manpower structure and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Councilmember Gooey. An ordinance to amend the 2022 five-year capital improvements plan for preparation and recovery efforts due to previous hurricanes and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Councilmember Gooey. An ordinance to amend the 2022 General Fund Operating Revenue and Expenditure Budgets, Judges 25th JDC Division B and Juvenile Division Department, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Councilmember Arbro.
And that's all of the introductions.
Thank you. Can we go to 9P, Mr. Garrett?
9B, an ordinance.
P is in Paul.
Yes, sir.
9P, a resolution to adopt the Plaquemines Parish Title VI plan as required under the Federal Transportation Administration and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Councilmember Roussel.
Mr. Roussel offers. I'll second. Mr. Roussel.
Yes, this is something that the administration has asked for, and I'm offering it for their behalf. Want to explain it, Mr. Bures?
This is a Title VI plan that's required for us to have in order for the raise grant that we were awarded for the ferry access road on the west bank of the river. So the $1.1 million raise grant, they're requiring us to have a Title VI plan. Title VI plan We've had one in the ferry department for years. It basically says that we're not going to discriminate against persons for race, gender, things like that.
Thank you. Any other questions? Audience, machines open. Passes 9-0. Go back.
Item 9, ordinances and resolutions on second reading and final passage. A, ordinances and public hearings pursuant to Article 6, Section 6.01E of the Plaquemines Parish Charter. 1, an ordinance approving a plan of re-subdivision of a portion of Tract 5E, Bell Chase Plantation, Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, as shown on the plat of survey of Cypress Park Subdivision, Phase 2B, by Bryant Hammond and Associates, certified by Hugh McCurdy III, PLC, dated June 17, 2022. The owner having fulfilled all the requirements of the subdivision and re-subdivision ordinance of the Parish of Plaquemines without cost to the Parish of Plaquemines Parish Government or the Parish of Plaquemines, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Councilmember LaHaye.
Ms. LaHaye offers a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Alborough. Ms. LaHaye?
I think that, everything has
Use the
been,
mic.
this has come before us before.
Ms. LaHaye, could you pull your mic down?
Can you pull your mic down?
Thank you.
I think that I've answered everything, that all the questions that have come up. So, I'm ready to offer it. I have a second. So that's all.
You got us, any questions?
Ready to roll.
Any questions from the council, administration, audience? Machines open.
Once you get out there, see.
It passes 7-2.
9B, an ordinance to rescind and annul and set aside ordinance number 20-106, Section 2, which created a mosquito control user fee and otherwise provide with respect thereto. Councilmember LaFrance.
I so offered.
Mr. LaFrance offers there a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Bartholomew. Mr. LaFrance,
As written.
any questions? The ordinance to annul and set aside ordinance 20-106, Section 2, which created a mosquito control user fee. And otherwise,
Take the $7 off the water bill. That's to take the $7 off the water bill.
Which will eliminate the mosquito control department.
Mr. Blink?
Wait.
Well, I was just about to talk about how it's a, great time, tax revenue's up, and, I was happy to sponsor this, not happy to sponsor it, but we knew we had to do it to get the department through the lean times. And now that tax revenue's up, hearing that there's a lot of sales tax coming in, seems like there's industrial development is going to be continuing for the duration. Large plants are going to be getting on the tax rolls. It makes sense that we take this back off the burden of the people here. But if the industrial development can't help subsidize the cost of living here, we understand.
Mr. LaFrance, I met with you and spoke with you about this piece of legislation. Now that it's self-funded and is not a burden on the general fund, if you rescind this, we'll have to rely on the general fund to fund this department again. The internal auditor just did an audit on the mosquito control department, and his suggestion is not to remove the $7 off of the water bills. I thought we talked about it and we had came to some kind of understanding.
I understand that, Ms. Taylor, but we have discussed other things with other people at this table. And for some reason, when you come to the council meeting, everything changed. So if certain things can change, then everything is off the table. Now, they say sales tax is up because of Venture Global. Well, what is the best way? It could be a win-win situation for everybody in the parish. Not just only our employees can get a raise, but what I'm looking at, how does this benefit everybody in the parish? What can I do to benefit everybody? And that's to take that $7 off the water bill.
So, Mr. LaFrance, I'm disappointed because it sounds like you shoot my dog, I'll shoot your cat. When we're trying to keep a balanced budget and trying to work within our means, this has been working for the mosquito control department. We talked about the aged trucks and equipment. This $7 fee has enabled us to look at purchasing a truck and updating some of the equipment. It sounds like your mind is made up, but I would ask that you would not do this. And do you have a plan to subsidize the $1 million that you're going to cut out of this department?
Well, previously in this meeting, we had asked everyone to wait to the budget hearing so we could deal with this, but we didn't want to wait to the budget hearing to deal with it. So if it was good for A, it's good for B. What's good for the goose is good for gander.
I think what one of the points Mr. Crystal's trying to make is that our proposed budget for 2023, our revenues, the expenditure budget for mosquito control was funded with the mosquito control fee. So what she's saying is that you all are going to have to bend the budget for 2023, add $1 million from the general fund, and obviously she spoke about some capital outlay money as well. And obviously you need to do an appropriation to fund the balance of the year because we wouldn't be collecting this fee for November and December. So that's the point we're trying to make. The raises that we were previously discussing were put in our 2023 budget, the president's proposed 2023 budget. So we're just warning you all that if you do this, you're going to have to pull $1 million out of the general fund at the budget hearings to pay for it. And any capital outlay expenses that may come up that Ms. Taylor referenced.
Ms. Newberry?
Do you know what the total cost is for this department and versus what we're bringing in, by any chance?
Since we were collecting around $1 million, we did make their budget around $1 million and gave them more money to buy chemicals. And as of tonight, we do have an ordinance on the table to transfer money from their operating to be able to purchase a truck and a new spraying unit because they had the extra funds for this year.
Okay, thank you.
So we would just have to scale back their budget, or you would take the $1 million and, from the general fund, would be the end result.
Ms. LaHaye?
So the receipts that you collect, the $7, is $1 million at the end of the year. Is that what you're saying?
Give me that.
Saying that we'll lose $1 million?
Yes, ma'am. It's approximately $1 million in revenue.
I can get you the exact amount we budgeted for next year.
And we jeopardize mosquito control?
Yes, ma'am. Unless there's another funding source.
What we're saying is the council would have to find $1 million in the general fund to appropriate for the service.
We budgeted $1 million for next year, even.
Typically in government services that you provide to public, they're called enterprise funds. They're supposed to be self-funding. And so I think a couple of years ago when Mr. Blink did this, or 2 years ago when we did this, we were trying to ensure the survival of the mosquito control department. And the only way to do it, because we didn't have the money at the time, certainly was to do the $7 fee. So now that it's an enterprise fund and it's self-funding, the point the auditor was trying to make is typically these services are self-funding. And since it is self-funding, we should probably leave it alone. But I just want to put you all on notice that you'll have to amend our proposed budget by $1 million if you change it, and perhaps more, because what I'm hearing is we'll need some additional capital outlay money for equipment, et cetera.
So $1 million plus.
Mr. LaFrance?
What was the amount of money increase our sales tax since Venture Global is there? What is the amount?
We increased it $4 million this year to $10 million, and that's what we budgeted for next year too, is $10 million.
So 10 million. There's your million. There's your million.
Mr. Blink?
Sure. Again, when I did this, it was because we had to, right? I mean, we're flying the plane into the crash, and we're trying to make as many departments survive as possible. And the mosquito control department it's a crucial public health department. What I've seen lately in this parish, though, is we keep rounding up to smaller government or less government services and all this other stuff, right? And that, we need to get out of the way and just let free enterprise do its thing. And now it is, right? There's construction happening all over the place. Locals are being forced out of trailer parks because RVs are being put in their spots. The roads are getting torn up. There's impacts. And if we can't pay for $1 million department with some of the economic benefits from this increase in business here, then we need to really ask ourselves, why are we doing it? And I'm certain the administration can figure out a way to make this work in the budget. And if not, then we need to be open with people and say that industrial development cannot help fund the government here.
We absolutely can make it work in a budget. Right. But, what you're doing is you're taking $1 million out of the budget that could have been used for something else. You've been talking about Highway 11 needing repairs. It needs to be milled and overlaid. That's something that maybe some of this money could pay for. That, there are a lot of other priorities. We've got $100 million worth of infrastructure that needs to be repaired in the parish between water and sewer. Maybe some of that money could be used to repair some of the infrastructure that we have in this parish. If you take $1 million out of the budget that we are currently collecting for mosquito control, that's $1 million that we don't have to put towards something else. And there are a lot of priorities in this parish that need to be funded. So you guys vote however you want to vote. That's fine. We feel like we have to make you aware of the situation that's going to come up.
Ms. LaHaye?
What about lowering it to $5?
We will be happy to look at any situation you want. What I would like to do is have the time, if you're suggesting is to lower it to $5, so you probably don't know, but it's a graduated scale. The $7 fee is for a 3/4 inch meter, then a 1 inch meter is a little more, and then a 2 inch meter is a little more, and then a 4 inch meter is a lot more. So it costs commercial businesses that have large meters a lot more money per month than it does residential people. So we can absolutely look at it and tweak it any kind of way you guys would like to.
Well, I was just thinking it shows the public that we're trying to help them and lower, even if it's not all the way. It's a
We'd be
little
happy
bit.
to look at that.
Reverend?
I'm glad I asked the question, but it would be a great thing to have $7 taken off the bill. But mosquito control is so important. Let me say, I was hoping that maybe this is something like earlier you was talking about the employee increase waiting until the budget hearing. Do we have to just do this today? This is something I hope you take up at the budget hearing, because, and I would love to have that extra $7. But boy, without mosquito control, really already not doing what it could be doing already. And to hit mosquito control, we need it, and I don't know if this will put to the public, they're saying, look, we're gonna take this $7 from you, but you want to have no mosquito control. I wonder what their opinion would be on that. So I just hope this is something that you don't have to do today and take up the budget hearing so that you really can look at how we can keep mosquito control. I just hope that, we really consider that.
Mr. LaFrance?
Yes. This has been on the agenda for a couple of months now. This ain't just happened, Rev. It's been on the agenda for a couple of months now, and I spoke, and several council members had spoke to me in favor of it. And again, this is my move against the sales tax is up. Let's not use a scare tactic that mosquito control is gone. No, that's it. It's just going to come out the general budget. That's all that means. Don't let nobody scare you. Mosquito control ain't gone. And we getting ready, and again, we asked to wait to the budget hearing, but no, they want to move. So let's move. Let's give everybody a Christmas gift. Let's give that old lady that can't afford to buy her medicine. And let's give her that $7 to help her with her medicine. All right?
I hope this question is valid.
Name and address for the record.
Melissa Nance, and I live on Main Street. I just wanted to bring this up because I heard someone say something about airplanes and the mosquito issue. And bees are a real issue and are very much affected by these chemicals. So I just wanted, without the bees, we don't have a lot of product as far as agriculture is concerned. So I'm just hoping that some sort of consideration is being taken concerning the planes specifically. I know they're handling it concerning the trucks.
Without the bees, we not here. Mr. Blink?
Yeah, sure. So in addition to authoring the original legislation, I have a beekeeper too. And the thing is, if folks register their hives with the state, the mosquito control department can and should be checking that.
So I'm just curious to know about the planes. How that affects.
You don't have no dirty water this time.
I still got it. Clarence Bronx, 156 crossover lane. I was about to say the same thing. The airplane, I know it could affect the bees and some insects that we don't want to hurt, but we need that airplane back in the air to do the march in Phoenix, from Phoenix to Pearl Hash. Because every night at 6:30, 6:45, everybody got to go inside. For the night out against crime, we couldn't even have them. We had to do it at 4:30 because at 6 o'clock, 7:30, the mosquitoes are too bad. They're terrible. I don't see how we don't have West Nile on this East Bank. So we need both. We need to get rid of that $7 because a lot of people on the East Bank don't have the money. We don't have the money down here. Like I said last meeting, they got people on the East Bank, a lot of them making $800 a month and running a family. And they got a lot making like $15 a month, $1,500 a month. And a lot of making $800 a month. So they're struggling. And if they take that $7 off, it'll make a big difference. We got to pay for water. We can't drink the water over here. Remember, we got to use bottled water. So that'll help us a lot. Thank you.
That phone. Can't do nothing.
Who you calling, the guy that you gave me?
We tell them to say that. We tell them
There you go. Any other questions? Ms. LaFrance? Machines are open. Ms. LaHaye? It passes 5-4.
Going back to 9A2, an ordinance approving a plan of re-subdivision of Lot 2A being a portion of Lot 5, Lower Star Plantation, Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, into lots 2A1 and 2A2, Lower Star Plantation, Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, as shown on the plan and platted survey by Dufresne Surveying Engineering, Inc., dated March 31st, 2022, the owner having fulfilled all of the requirements of the subdivision and re-subdivision ordinance of the parish of Plaquemines without cost to the Plaquemines Parish government or the parish of Plaquemines and otherwise provide with respect thereto. Councilmember Blank.
So that means we would leave it.
Mr. Blink, you offer? Offer, Mr. Blink offers, there a second?
All right, I'll tell him that.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. LaFrance. Any questions? Machines are open.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman.
Passes 9-0.
Chairman,
Yes, sir.
point of order. We have to conclude our business if we want to catch the ferry by 7:15. We've made arrangements to make the last ferry at 7:15.
We need the fuel 9, can we vote on that real quick? We need it for fuel purchase.
Go to just keep going on the
right.
9F.
9F, an ordinance to amend the 2022 general fund operating expense budget, coastal zone management department, and otherwise provide with respect thereto. Councilmember LaFrance.
Mr. France, you offer?
Yes.
Is there a second? Second by Mr. Blink. Any questions? Audience, machines open. We'll get there. Passes 9-0.
9G, an ordinance to amend the 2022 public health fund operating expenditure budget, mosquito control department, and otherwise provide with respect thereto. Councilmember Blank.
Mr. Blink, you offer? And Mr. Roussel seconds. Any questions? Machines open.
I can't see everything on my screen right now, so I accidentally closed everything out. I mean, not everything, but.
Mr. Bartholomew, how you vote?
Yes.
Ms. LaHaye, Mr. Alborough, Dr. Gouy. I vote yes. Dr.
Yes.
Ms.
Yes.
Passes 9-0.
H, an ordinance to amend the 2022 general fund operating revenue expenditure budget, community action agency department, CSBG CARES division, and otherwise provide with respect thereto. Councilmember Blank.
Mr. Blink offers. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Alborough. Any questions? Machines open. Passes 9-0.
9J, an ordinance to amend 2022 public health fund operating revenue expenditure budgets, ambulance general department, and to otherwise provide with respect thereto. Councilmember Blank.
Mr.
We
Blink,
have changes to this one. On line 9, the amount's changed from 400,000 to 500,000, and on line 17, it's changed to 400,000 to 500,000.
Mr. Blink offers with those changes.
Oh,
That's-
that's the wrong one. Sorry.
So offer as introduced.
Mr. Blink offers. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Roussel. Any questions?
Jay?
Jay? Any questions?
We have collected more money in revenue. This is putting revenue money that we collected through the gap funds back into the budget.
Any other questions? Machines open. Ms. Newberry? Passes 9-0.
9K, an ordinance to amend the 2022 library services fund operating expenditure budget, libraries general department, and to otherwise provide with respect thereto. Councilmember Blank.
I'd like to offer as read.
Mr. Blink offers. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Alborough. Any questions? Machines open. Passes 9-0.
9L, an ordinance to amend the 2022 operating expenditure budget, various fund, various departments, various line items, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Councilmember Alborough.
Offer.
Mr. Alborough offers with a second.
Second.
Second by Ms. Newberry. Any questions? Machines open. Where's the aye? Mr. Gouy?
Oh, that changed. That's not changed.
Passes 9-0.
9I, an ordinance to amend the 2022 general fund operating expenditure budget, self-insurance department, and otherwise provide with respect thereto. Councilmember Blank. I think it has changes.
On lines 9 and 17, the amount has changed from 400,000 to 500,000.
I'd like to offer with those changes.
Mr. Blink offers and Mr. LaFrance seconds. Is there a question? Machines open.
9M, an ordinance to amend the 2022 General Fund Operating Expenditure Budget, Community Action Agency, Transit Department, and the Maintenance General Department, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Councilmember Arborough.
Offer.
Mr. Alborough offers their second.
I'll second.
Ms. LaHaye? Any questions? Machines are open. Passes 9-0.
And that's it in section 910, approval of minutes from the October 13th, 2022 regular meeting.
I'll offer as for second. Second by Mr. Blink. Any questions? Machines are open. I'll ask that we defer all the other items till next meeting. Everybody in the,
Boy, right quick, Rob, you wanna come up? Was you asked for it? Come on up here. I can wait. No, I'm not gonna be.
Can you pull your
What you got,
microphone
Mr.
down,
Brock?
please, Mr. John?
I'm sorry.
Pull your microphone down.
Yeah, he wanna discuss the thing right quick. How much time you have?
Good time.
We have time. No, 7:15.
So go to 11D, District 1 update.
Come on, you got a minute.
Which one?
Huh?
Which item is it, Mr.
7 o'clock?
Probably Bartholomew.
Just discussion about the elevation.
Yeah,
No, which one?
they're gonna run a little later for him.
What you got, Mr. Brock?
what you got, Mr. Brock?
It's back to the elevation thing. I feel like that's not fair, the way it's being done.
Yeah,
Like I said, East Bank, we can't afford to raise our house, up in the air and starting at $100,000.
I feel your pain. Down the road can't neither.
But the question is, who is forcing us to do this?
FEMA.
FEMA? If the parish government don't do what FEMA said, what they gonna do?
No insurance for Plaquemines
You
Parish.
think they're gonna tell that to people who got names that I'm not gonna announce right now, but they tell it to us on the East Bank or Bronx. But I know a bunch of people on that West Bank, they're not gonna tell that to. They're not gonna, because they're gonna have lawyers, they're all lawyers, and they're gonna stop
They
that.
told it to Dunham Springs.
Then the Spring had to do it?
Yeah.
It happened in Livingston Parish, Mr. Brox. They allowed people permits to fix their homes that were flooded and they weren't elevated, that were substantially damaged. Livingston Parish went back and made those people elevate their homes.
Or move out.
Or move out because of the insurance requirement.
At some point, our
It can
congressional
and will
delegation
And
needs to stand up against that.
That's for everywhere, places like a Grand Isle,
It's going on in Tampa, Florida right now, I could tell you.
Yeah.
So, the East Bank will not survive. We can't afford it.
We can't neither, mister.
We can't afford it. And I try my best to come with the council. I try my best to get y'all to help me. It ain't happening.
I went to Kennedy, Cassidy, and Scalise and asked them about it. And they said FEMA doesn't listen to them. I said, y'all hold the purse strings. They said, nope, they won't listen to us.
We in the same boat, bro.
FEMA is not helping us out.
Did they ever?
My-
You want to know what FEMA stands for?
Yeah.
Fix everything my ass.
Guess what? We pay the bill for FEMA. FEMA is federal money. They take federal money out of my checks.
Yeah.
They work for me, and they'll need to help me get I got 2 trailers I want to put online, and I cannot put them online because I can't afford to elevate them. It's not feasible to put them 17, 18 feet in the air, and after a certain time, I won't be able to get in it.
I can't get in it now. Thank you. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Yeah.
I'll second.
Motion by LaFrance, second by Blink. Machines are open. Passes 9-0. Let the record show we adjourn at 6:55 PM.